let's just call it hexes because I believe that's more what people are going to remember. So just if you need a little bit of hand remembering what they do, Ari's going to be giving folks more resources. Yasuo is going to be giving folks more combat power.
Yeah, and in this, we talked about this off beforehand, but again, I want to address it for everybody that isn't necessarily as familiar with this set. We have identified, we being the people who are significantly better at this game than I am, that there is a lack of frontline tankiness within this set at this point. It is incredibly important too when you are going through building your set, making sure that you have that 4-star 2-cost frontliner to really be able to absorb the damage. So when you are playing with one of the gods that gives you all of these additional items, which is going to give you both better offense and defense, but also the hexes, which is just going to give you better offensive capabilities as a whole, it becomes even more important.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's really interesting to see these two gods actually come up together, right? Because I would say on the Ari side, she is usually able to give you resources that help you get to those later levels a little bit faster, so that way you're able to really engage with a lot of those features here and there and get your first bite at the apple for trying to get to your 2-star 4-cost tank. But meanwhile for Yasuo, you will get a better tank long term because assuming you are also able to 2-star that 4-cost, you can put him on a hex that gives some kind of tank bonus, and then it's like you have a fourth item on top of him too. So it's all going to be how exactly you want to play and how contested, I would say, the comp you want to play is, which this early on in PBE, there's a couple of clear favorites. Symboli here already seems like they might be angling towards the first one being the victor, but you know what? Prismatic might just throw a
Oh
wrench
my
into those plans,
goodness.
so we'll see what exactly happens here.
Yeah, I've talked about this in previous Prismatic Poro Cups, and I'm going to bring it up basically every single time because it's something, it's a statement that somebody made a long time ago that I thoroughly support. In that, Silver tier is your most competitive augments. Gold gives some fun, but is still kind of competitive. Prismatic is the least competitive augments because it is absolute chaos that it throws into the game, but as a result, is by far the most fun. So when your opener is Prismatic, not only can it really kind of curtail your options depending on what you end up selecting, but it throws the entire lobby into potential mayhem where you just end up with all kinds of options being chosen, trait tree being a huge one of
Oh
them.
boy. Yeah, no, this can always get insane. It's always scary to play early on in a set because folks are still learning everything, and sometimes it takes a few extra games to figure out all the connective tissue here and there. But this also feels like a really good sampling of traits coming in here, where you have the Vanguard plus the Caretaker, which basically means you're 2/3 of the way to getting an Alawi. So that means you should have an easy way in order to get through that composition overall. And on top of that, too, that means you actually even have access to the 7 Caretaker, which we'll talk more about if that is the path that they do decide to go down. Meanwhile, for Cam's they're one of 2 players who actually picked up this. I always forget the name of the immediate level 3, but have now this 3-star Nasus, which wasn't quite enough in order to really get online here. But I believe we also saw Murky off to the side get a 3-star 1-cost of their own, being the Twisted Fade, and that being a Stargazer is going to be another thing for us to consider. Let's actually hover Stargazer quickly because this is going to be one of those traits that changes every single game. You have to look into it. Lots of homework, honestly, that you have to do whenever you load into one of these games where, oh goodness, let's see, you have to check your Stargazer, you have to check psionic items, which we'll talk about later. You have to check what your, not conduit, the whatever trait that Leona has right now, the oh, and it's
Yes.
sold the second I said it. You know what? We'll look at it later. There's a lot of things to confirm as you go, is what I'm trying to say.
And again, I'm gonna just kind of tailor back the things we were talking about before while we were getting prepped up. In that, I feel like there's so much happening in this set between all of the different things that you need to be monitoring in that regard, as well as the different gods that are involved and the frequency in which all of that comes up and the boons that you get. There's so much happening. But Pro, you made a very good point in all of that during our discussions that it's also one of the easier sets for new people to kind of come and get involved in. And I think that's incredibly important for TFT at this stage in its life because we have a very strong, dedicated set of players. Hey, look at these guys in the party right now. Look at all of you who are currently in the chat watching. Obviously, very dedicated individuals. But it's always going to be important to continue to expand the player base, and having a set that is going to be coming out, even though it's going to be out for a shorter period of time than a typical set, having it out where it is more accessible and easier to learn is important. But I still find it chaotic because I am a simple-minded human being.
No, it's okay. Lots of stuff to track, lots of things to figure out. But that's also what the PBE cycle is kind of for, right? This is when folks are really starting to experiment, really trying to find the paths forward. And I think Anima Squad's another really good example of that here. That's what Lunar's playing up at the very top. For those of you who aren't familiar, this is our econ trait. This set, it is back to that kind of full Lost Greek Fortune style gameplay. But once you're able to get to some of those higher level cash outs, you can really get some game changing items.
Yeah, and econ is something that we need to talk about
Oh,
because
please.
it is incredibly strong in this set as a whole. We don't have the same, as you like to call, soup, where the overall goal is to simply get to your 5 stars, load your board with as many as you can, 2-star them as fast as you can, and there you go, you're going to win. However, getting to those early levels, getting those early levels, getting to those higher levels where you're getting the forecasts, getting that frontliner that's required, as well as overall development of your composition early is incredibly important within this set. So we're finding a lot of players are kind of leaning heavily into those econ augments. And then when you have Ari involved in this as well, interestingly enough, did they all choose neutral?
That's what I was looking at here. I think everyone chose Ari. We'll check kind of as we look through quickly, but I was about to talk about how this is a very interesting sort of choice here because when you have Yasuo this early, you're able to get that extra stacking HP. It's a very strong one, but it seems like, yeah, only one person picked the Yasuo here. That's Kamzi over here with the 3-star 1-cost tank. So nothing too surprising there, but everyone else is going to have that huge gold advance to help try to get to those breakpoints sooner.
Yeah, very interesting that they happen. Like they're the only ones going intentionally aggressive, right? There's no two ways about this decision at this point in time. But everybody else is just kind of looking for more of that econ side of things, looking to get those higher levels earlier on. But with this early Nasus, it makes a lot of sense. Like you said, getting that stacking HP early on, as well, hitting that early 3-star. It all makes sense. It's how they're going to be able to transition this into an endgame composition, hopefully maintaining the Nasus as a strong frontline.
Yeah, also, I'm just keeping an eye on Lunar as we go. Anima was actually also buffed very recently just to make sure that it's a little bit more consistent to find those opportunities to cash out, to find those ways to keep things going. So it could be an interesting thing to keep an eye out for because I've seen players crash and burn pretty quickly in the past. Seems like there's a few more options to pump the brakes now. We'll just have to be careful about it as we get deeper into this lobby.
Yeah. We're getting to the point where, players are going to have their base boards established. They're going to be starting to get into, maintaining their streak territories. You can see the 3 lost streak here. Meeple is a fun little trait. I heard a lot of talk about it being incredibly strong in the first day of
Yeah.
PBE, and then it went away very quickly.
Well, I think a lot of things also came up too because I think first day of PBE was just before people were able to really figure out some of this misfortune quirks and how, oh wait, she works really great with Victor reroll. But also too, I feel like Meeple is still really decently strong. I think the thing that is happening though that people kind of play it in a weird way at the end of the day. The way that you're supposed to play Meeple is that you try to rush to 7 as quickly as possible, so you have access to that clone hex immediately, and you're able to start seeing if you can try to tier up some of your lower level Meeple units that you've been sort of missing along the way. I'm thinking things like, oh, you have like a 2-star Poppy? Well, if you get 7 Meeple in on 7, which is possible if you get lucky with forecasts here and there, you can just make sure you can get a 3-star 1-cost tank as soon as possible to help even out your front line a little bit. Or be able to find ways to be able to get 2-star 4-cost tank front lines a little bit faster in order to keep it ongoing. So still plenty of ways to play it here, and certainly I would say Simply, now that they've been able to get the Meepsies sort of coming in here through their own worth the wait, have a bunch of interesting options and are even being dropped a lot of cool quirky items actually looking at their bench.
Gonna have to cut into something completely not necessarily, but totally related to the game
Please.
as a whole. I had mentioned that Bikamzi is the one who, as I said, is looking to be that more aggressive, in your face, upfront kind of player. And we also now have confirmation that they live their life in the same way, as they are the ones responsible for us meeting our first donation goal. They were
Oh,
the
wow.
anonymous donation.
What do you know? Well, they're no longer anonymous now, so that is excellent to see. Once again, thank you so much to you, and that is a great donation here. They're able to help us hit our goal early on. I want to see if other folks want to try to match it in kind, but we'll see how that goes through the day. The day is still young in the world of TFT.
This Samira is putting in work in this combat, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Absolute farm for a 1-star, doing incredible work in that fight overall, as now we see the quick turnover to the 3-star Twisted Fate, closing that out quite easily. I mean, I would love to pay a little more attention to that Stargazer. Do it, Recon Bob. Do it. Do
Oh,
it for the
please.
meme. Aw.
Aww. No one ever wants to make the. Why does no one ever think of the commentators? You know, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, everyone wants to win the video game. That's boring. Let the
Ooh.
commentators have fun. Let us pilot your game. We'll let you do okay.
Yeah, play like Box. Do it for the tuber,
Yeah, exactly.
right? That's the only way to live, for the tuber. At
Mhm.
this point, we are just into the first round of, or sorry, just finished the first round of stage number 3. Quick health check in. We do have Bean still sitting all the way up at 100 HP, all the way down to a 68, 62 in our last places here as well. So a wide gap for an early on, but at the same time, with how important econ is, these loss streaks are going to matter. And I have just realized that I'm now cheering for Enki because they're using the Garen chibi.
Let me tell you, I think that's one of my favorite little legends that they've added, or technically not a little legend, but one of my favorite Pengus at the very least that they've added here. It's just
Penguin.
so cute. I love the fact that he's using an Infinity Edge as well. It's just
Mm-hmm.
so many little things that kind of work together here, and he goes wet, and it makes me happy, just like all penguins sort of should at the end of the day. We do, however, get a bit more insight into what just Bean is up to here, and like I said, she's just showing absolute dominance right now on the convergence. Shepard is one of these new funky traits that is a little bit different because it's a strong vertical, but it's not a vertical in terms of origin. It's a vertical instead of class. So units can get a little bit more eclectic here, but the end result is that you have an extra odd body on your board, I should say extra 2, with the Bia and Balin that you have right next to the Alawi over here, that Bean is sort of hovering around like a helicopter here. And let me tell you, very strong option here. Gets a lot of decent defensive stats at the 3-piece level. 5-piece starts getting a little bit more of a damage dealer. And because you have the emblem, if you can find a Sona, the 7-piece is going to go even harder with, I believe, a board-wide knockup, or at the very least some board-wide damage at the very start.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite of all of the current ones in this set, simply because it is unbelievably adorable. Meeple is the
Yeah.
same thing; it's right up there with it. I'm an absolute sucker for adorable units in TFT. I think they should always make the best compositions because it's one of those underdog things where you don't expect the adorable thing to be deadly. It's why Teemo is such a phenomenal champion within the popular video game League of Legends. I'm sure everybody loves Teemo. Certainly not the most hated person within the game in the slightest.
Yeah.
But that is actually also some early roll downs that we've seen. I don't have a chance to follow up on that just right now, but there was some of these players have done a very early roll down, finding themselves in that 20 to 30 gold remaining. So
Well, I mean, if they know that they have Ari to bail them out, you might as well give it a shot here. After all, she's just going to give everyone another 8 gold shot in the arm here. Seems like some folks are now starting to eye a few of the other options coming in here. And this is actually one of the things I like about Yasuo, because if you only pick 2 of the 3 hexes, his God Boon later on the game also gives you a bit of a gold infusion too. So there's more ways that you can get value and stats out of every way you try to slice it.
yeah, he's very benevolent in that regard, if you will, which is
I will.
contrary to the character,
Mm.
in my personal opinion.
Yeah, not usually see the edgy boy kind of going through with that. One thing to note here is that Grim actually, I think they reforged actually their emblems here, if memory kind of serves. I don't, or at least either that, we didn't see them pick it earlier on, but I would assume they did because they have 2 brawler emblems, which is already going to be insane. And they also have now managed to tech their way into 5 Nova as well, which is incredibly strong once you're able to get into it. Even stronger because you don't slot it onto your kindred at this point.
Yeah, we do see a lot of Nova Marauders, right? That tends to be kind of the duo that you see in terms of the two traits. But when you have the Brawler there with it, I mean, they have the one Marauder strat. It is active, but yeah, the 4 Brawler is going to be incredibly strong here. But just it's not going to be strong enough to deal with Bean. It looks yeah, no, not quite strong enough to deal with Bean. But this Kindred unit is one that we need to keep an eye on. She definitely acts as a relative backbone in terms of backline damage dealers for anybody that has a Ginsu's in their pocket. No Ginsu's just yet. I'm sure that's why they're sitting on the rod waiting for that recurve to come out so they can drop that on. The other, and again, we haven't talked about them just yet because we haven't seen them just yet, is LeBlanc, which gives very, old Jin vibes. Not quite as strong, obviously, because it's only a 4 cost, I believe LeBlanc is. But same kind of style of gameplay.
Yeah, that's something that we probably want to watch on Bean's board because that is going to be another one of those Shepherd units. So again, more ways to try to get the Bia and Valen statted out as quickly as you can. Let's also take another looky here to Symboli's board across the way. They have managed to hit the Freestar Meepsy. It looks like they've been selling any additional Meepsies they've been getting though. So no kind of crazy Meepsy 4 here from Worth the Wait. Instead, it's just getting used as an econ tool to try to push up levels as quickly as you can, which also is a very valid way to play.
Yeah, unfortunate that the sorry, totally forgot who I was talking about there. That the Pantheon actually made it into the back line and didn't get stuck on the Meepsy themselves. That's what you want when you have that big solo tank, which is why a lot of the times when you have one frontliner that is significantly stronger than all of your other ones, or you have those backliners, there it is. That's another very important unit, by the way, is the Vex. And again, very Rageblade dependent Vex, as you can see based off of their abilities here. But when you have the one frontline, one backline units that are stronger than the others, you tend to see a lot of the diamond shape kind of set up on the board, wherein you have a single frontline unit taking most of the damage while your backline scales up in order to kind of help dissipate the damage.
Yeah, and really quickly, as it on Vex, I do not like this unit personally. I think every time I have tried to make Vex work, I have just gone the fastest apes in my life. So there's still a lot that I think needs to be worked out. I think, as you said, Ginsu's is a very important part of that. Another thing that's important to remember at Vex is that she actively steals AD and AP from all of her targets that she hits. So in the same way that Morgana's able to help boost the overall tankiness of your team by existing, Vex does sort of the same thing, because if that enemy team has less AD and less AP, your tanks are going to survive that tiny bit longer as well. Nothing too crazy though comes out from the first anvil, so it might stay a 1-item Vex for a little bit longer.
Yeah, definitely need to see the item start getting up on that, because while she is a 5-cost unit, she is still very item reliant to kind of get the scale up in order to steal enough stats to survive. You can see just this, 2-star Talon is going to be able to completely close her out on his own. The danger of a single unit carry in your backline when assassins exist within the game is exactly that. Stargazer, you can see 4 out of 5 right here, up to a good amount of ability damage healing. Interested to see when they get that 5 in. Are they going to drop one? Are they going to, drop one of their other units for it if they find it, or are they going to wait for the level? Opting to take exclusive customization here because they do want to get more items out, and I cannot blame them. They do look a little low compared to other players.
On top of that, too, they're missing a 2-star 4-cost tank. The Tom Kench is going to be exactly what the doctor ordered, though. Another thing I want to call out quickly, though, is I believe I just saw our Lunar Slayer actually just win a fight after they've been going for the Lost Streak Anima for a little while. I think that might mean they cashed out.
Yeah. Unfortunately, for the purposes of the tournament, Lunar Slayer is just a random that we only had 7 members of the actual event able to check in for this game number 1. So it's interesting that they ended up going for a lost streak in the overall, and we'll see how it affects everybody else's placements based off of as it goes, because for those of you who are unaware, it is not possible to host a single, a custom lobby within the PBE server. You can have everybody join into it and run it if that happens to be the case, but there has to be 8 people. So if only 7 join, unfortunately, this is what we are left with.
Same thing that you see on the live servers, and let me tell you, there's nothing more scary than queuing into a quick little casual match of TFT and then seeing 7 players go GLHF to each other, which is, a fresh hell that I hope I never have to experience.
That was an absolutely demolishing combat for BK right there. We had been seeing that TF do quite well recently, and that was a phenomenal turnaround with the commander on board.
Yeah, I gotta say that is really crazy to see, and just having the Sona 2 at 7 is wild to me. I would
Mhm.
imagine that must have came from the ripping a
Booster
pack
pack.
that you have there for the booster pack right there. Like, yeah, you get 5 cost guaranteed. Would have been nicer if it was holographic and shiny, but it's listen, I don't need to get a good pull from my cards. It's just for the love of the game, but I can't get
Eh,
one holographic right. Come on, please. It's so cool. You get
can we
signal
talk about
shine.
the
They
fact
gain
that it's
1
a
AD,
Mass
1
Effect
AP.
reference, though?
Oh yeah, please.
Commander Shepard?
Oh yeah, that's. Let me tell you, this is my favorite comp on the convergence right now.
I mean, yeah, it's a very, very fun way. Here's the LeBlanc, by the way, that we were talking about earlier on. A good set of items, honestly. Having the Vanguard in there is quite interesting. Um, like I said, as it reads, gain ability power when anybody gains a shield, and you have a lot of shielding coming. So very neat kind of tech in to be able to put the 3 items on her.
Yeah, that feels really nice. It synergizes really nicely with the Jewel Gauntlet that we have too, just because again, raw AP plus Jewel Gauntlet equals terrifying. Works out pretty nice if you ask me. We'll have to see how these players go on through for the last pieces here, where now they're not just deciding whether or not they want this trait, they're also thinking about what God boon they want at the end of the
Mhm.
day here. Again, for folks who are still learning the set, the icon that you see players have next to their name on the scoreboard is the god they've committed to in this game. So they'll be receiving an extra special bonus based on how they have been able to really stat things out early on. So either you want that +8 gold, maybe you would prefer to get the Yasuo boon here, and so you decide to forego it in favor of getting that extra text.
Because remember, even in polytheism, you do still ultimately commit to a single monotheistic entity.
Yep,
That's just how it has worked throughout history.
yep, you got to go to the temple, make sure you give that offering, and really hope that they like it.
Yeah, ask the Greeks about how that goes.
Uh, Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it leads to the ocean getting whipped. Regardless, though, we'll have to see where else things can go on. And by the way, I just need to call this out. Justine, she's still win streaking. She has not dropped a single round this entire game and has now also been able to find a Commander Shepard of her own, which means we get to see the full 7-star Balin right now. And let me tell you, this is absolutely terrifying. You see that wave effect rush over everyone? That is what the 7-piece does. The first ability is replaced with that board-wide knockup. Gives you so much extra time in these initial fights. And that's going to be enough for Justine to take out her first opponent before dropping a single game.
That is symbolically Rudolph being eliminated in the very first game, first one gone. Unfortunate for them, our random is still living as well. Enki finding themselves on their absolute last life without a doubt. And then everybody else still, in that 50 plus, around that 50 plus kind of range. Murky Waters obviously slightly underneath that. Um, you know what, Kate? I'm very glad that you actually highlighted his augments right there because there is a big augment gap in these 3 choices compared to what you have on Just Bean's board or on BK's board. They are insane strength level differences.
Yeah, and like granted, you are starting to see some of these players manage to start hitting some pretty big points here, right? Like being able to have the Diana free with perfect itemization is going to be a pretty powerful thing here at the end of the day, but there's more stuff you have to kind of consider through all of that. We haven't seen the Arbiter trait that Enki is running, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be an increase in power. It looks like that's where that gold was dropped from, which means there's just even less that they have to go with, which means that they're also going to be going out here in 7th place.
Yeah, it was quite a gamble with what they ended up selecting for their augments all the way through. The board that they kind of chose to play as well didn't float the best on its own. But that's TFT, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
you hit, sometimes you don't, and that can be the end of it. Is sometimes it doesn't really have anything to do with you as a player as to whether you win or lose. There is an amount of luck that is in this. There's a lot of skill, a significant amount of skill, but there is always that element of luck that is involved as well. I
Well, it's important
absolutely
to
love this layout for the board, by the way.
I do too. I mean, the thing I was going to say quickly is that TFT really is a game about minimizing misfortune, right? Like you're doing everything that you can in order to play as consistent a game as through as many games as possible, find the lines that allow you to sort of work on through. And sometimes you got to put in a lot of effort in order to do that because the game hands you a pretty bad spot. Other times you wake up and you go, oh, this game plays itself. There's nothing I have to worry about. This is a really strong position here. And I would say if you're Bean, that's exactly what's sort of been happening here. Other folks might be starting to struggle a tiny bit more here, though.
Yeah, without a doubt, Bean has just had the ideal game thus far. Very much good choices, strong options, and very well played to get through this far at 100% HP still. We find Murky Waters going in against the random here. This is a mech, or a Nova cash out. Sorry, mech, jeez. This is a cash out board that is being fought against, which is proving to be quite strong because they have been sitting at that low HP for a while and are actually recovering HP as well. So something to make note of within their augments.
That is not the
So
augment, actually. That's the Fiora. That's what
sorry,
Divine Duelist does here.
yes, I meant their units, not augments. I
No
misspoke. My
worries.
apologies.
Hey.
So yeah, kind of causing havoc for our players as they continue to survive within this. Fiora also, my favorite thing about it is they brought back the old duelist trait of instantly wins 1v1s.
Which, by the way, I'm just going to call this out right now. Just as a quick PSA, if you try to full sell your board at a 3-star 5 cost, remember that all your opponent needs to do if you keep it all by its lonesome is buy one Fiora and you're going to lose the game. Just in case anyone ever decides to dabble with that on the PBE or live
Yes.
servers. You got to watch
Yep.
out for that.
It is probably my favorite thing within the game. 1-star Fiora will instantaneously beat any single unit board. It is hard coded into the game that it ends that way. It's beautiful. One of my favorite little tidbits. And again, this has happened before. There have been other units that have had that duelist as a
The
part of their
1v1
kit
execute,
before,
yeah.
and I love it. I also love Nami being back and being a badass.
Yeah, I gotta say, this is a really strong iteration of Nami here. I like the bubbles. I like the fact that they didn't sort of push her more towards the utility knockup role that they usually give her. Like, oh yeah, the bubble's gonna be a stun, like it was with Space Groove or Disco, I should say, back in the day in set 10. Here, it's a little bit more splash damage. You're able to get a lot more AoE on your board, which means that you can get into the backline a little bit faster than some other 4-cost carries can.
Yeah, and aside from absolutely all of that, she's just one of my favorite characters in the
Oh
entire
no, I
game.
respect
It,
that.
as a support main, it was Thresh and Nami who carried me through absolutely every devastating period that I had, which is, anytime I open the game.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I'll say for me, like I feel the same way whenever I see Vel'Koz exist. But considering how popular Vel'Koz is compared to, say, Nami, I don't see Vel'Koz all that often.
I mean, you know what, Vel'Koz, she has her place and is also a significant amount of fun, a very unique unit within the game, as well as TFT themselves. So fun to have, fun to see, as this LeBlanc is still doing work, but Bean has lost now. She is no longer at that 100%. So curious to see kind of what changes she looks to make at this point. Sitting, I mean, at what's difficult to say is where do you go, right? She's only level 8. She hasn't pushed to 9 yet. She's going to have a solid amount of gold. This is your minor boon selection, right? 54 gold. She could push to 9 right now if she chose, but she has the HP to wait. It's where do you go from here? How do you expand your board aside from, hoping for the pulling in the bard and getting the 25% clone on dragon, which everybody hates.
Yeah. One thing I'll note really quickly too, and by the way, we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
This is going to be that 6 mech board that we've been sort of seeing folks really lead into in this set. One of the premier options I've seen folks go for as a I don't know what to do at a 4-cost level. Let's just play mecha. This can get to some really crazy end game scenarios where folks just have trouble eating through all of this health, and all of a sudden you're just going to be losing fights here and there. Back to just Bean, though, I agree. She has the time. She is trying to hemorrhage a little bit of HP. 58 is certainly scary when you were sitting pretty high and mighty at 100 for most of this lobby. Now that you're in the top 4, though, breathe a bit of a sigh of relief. You're starting to hit some more of these stacks here and there. And because you have the RE boon, you were getting a little bit of extra experience per round. So that was able to save you a tiny bit of time. For now, though, I also am unsure what this final option will be. It looks like it's going to be a 4th Vanguard to help out the front line. I also wouldn't have minded, say, a Jin, for example, just
Mhm.
so that way you're able to get a combination of two things, right? The first is going to be more options for the Dark Star that's coming in, although you already have the emblem. But the other is that you get so much additional shred on top of the shred item you've already built in terms of the staff. So more stuff to kind of work with, but we'll see exactly how this all ends up as time goes on for Bean.
Yeah, I'm very glad that you drew attention to the mech board when we did have it up on screen, because Dixie has been holding incredibly strong since they transitioned over to that board. So that is what I expect to be in our end game of our top two, without a doubt, because they are slicing through the competition in every single combat that they're having, which, by the way, means that Murky Waters and BK Hamzi have both been eliminated from this game as well. We find ourselves in the top three with, it looks like a big HP gap, but I don't think it's as big as it is, because in the last loss that we saw just being Take, she took 17 damage, which is almost an equalizer within a round or two.
I mean, you say that, but you also look at Grim and you go, huh, that's 2 lives versus, let's say, generously 4, right? That's going to be something that the matchmaking is going to really have an impact here. It's also going to be a question of what adaptations that Grim can sort of make at this level to try to see if they can squeeze a little bit more power out here. That said, though, other than a second Fiora too, oh, well, now they really get the Mastery. Actually, yeah, it really is just going to come down to finding a Fiora. There isn't too much else that could be done here.
Yeah, Graves is also another option that you can always put in, as you mentioned at the very, 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 very start of today. It does kind of put you down a path. There's the Fiora. You got to sell for that. Yeah, I was gonna say there's no way that there's nothing that's worth holding to not buy that in the immediate. So I wanted to talk about Bard, aka Brad, aka Clone Master Bob, because in that fight that just happened, that PBE, he does have, at 1 star, I believe it's a 20% chance, at 2 star, a 30% chance of cloning the dragon to your board for the next combats. And that is something that has been brought up as very problematic, because it can be a complete and total tide turner if you have a top 2 situation and one of you manages to clone it and the other one doesn't, because that is, what, a 3,000, 5,000 HP pool that your opponent doesn't have sitting as a frontliner. But none of these players, I don't think any of them actually teched in a Bard for that combat.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And it's one of those things that kind of, as you said, is one of those, I don't want to say knowledge gaps, but it's a thing that people are still kind of learning and trying to figure out. I will note that it's not a one-off thing either. You just have a dragon that goes on your bench you could tech in. It means you would have to drop one of your main units on your board, but it's still an option to really keep things going here. So again, it's still powerful. It still has a pretty huge impact, especially when you don't have tanks coming in here. But I'm going to cut myself off quickly because we got fights and we got even more donations coming in.
Yeah, and quite frankly, combat and cash go hand in hand in this world, as well as this game. I mean, we talk about the econ that goes into the importance of the game, but it's the donations, the dollars, the dineras that are coming out of chat and the community that are the important ones, as we find ourselves over $300 in donations at this point as well, while watching this 6 mecha absolutely steamroll through the remainder of the competition. So good on Nguyen Dixie for doing so well here. Shout outs to Beppo for the $100 donation, though. This is amazing. The fact that we've already hit two donation goals is insane.
Yeah, we're going to have to think of some stretch goals pretty soon, Oshi, and we'll be able to spend some time out of this game figuring out how we want to do that. But independent of that, I agree. Like, this is already becoming a pretty insane spot for all of these players. Grim, I'm certainly the most anxious about here, although they have also managed to find a couple of opportunities here, there, and everywhere to keep their board stable. They are, though, going to be fighting against the Ghost, so that's going to be a little bit of an easier fight. Riot's always had a bit of a challenge, I guess, balancing the Ghost boards to make sure they're just as strong as their non-ethereal competitors, but it seems like here there's still going to be a bit of a challenge for the Kindred to break through.
One of the other things about this set that kind of drives me every now and then is just how chaotic the combats are. Right? It will seem like it's a relatively close fight, and then all of a sudden half of one person's board is gone. And I feel like we witnessed something very, very akin to that in that combat for Grim. They do unfortunately go down, finding themselves in 3rd place, as we have Bean and Nguyen in our top 2. I mean, this is the final top 2 that we would have guessed probably at about 3-4.
Yeah. Like, this isn't anything too surprising, I think, for us at this point. The only thing I'll call out, though, is the fact that Bean actually was able to win that last fight against Winn-Dixie here. So that means that they've been able to find, again, another piece in order to be able to really get a little bit of extra board strength here. Although I don't see it off the top of my head right now.
An interesting kind of question to solve ultimately here, but the combats are proving very, very close. Itemization is showing to be incredibly key with the penetration versus the defensive stats, but overall the tankiness is kind of the end all be all, with Bean managing to be the one who pushes through with those multiple layers of shred penetration. And the biggest thing I think is probably the LeBlanc stacking with that Vanguard spat.
You know what? That is probably one of the big difference makers here. In that last fight, though, I would also say it was the Sona that was coming in here because that was giving you
Mhm.
the command module that was printing additional gold. And that means that Bean actually has an additional win condition of trying to go for the LeBlanc 3 as well. Already had 5 total, 2 on the bench. So that might be something that Dixie is going to have to try to deny here if they want to try to survive post stage 7.
Yeah, can we take just another look at Bean's board, Kate, if you don't mind? I just want to see. Yeah, they are still running the Seven Shepherd for Vanguard right now. Um, with the they've got the Dark Star on the Sona. That's what's going on there as well. So again, another great use of the emblem, the Trait Tree Plus, by the way, I believe is what we're looking at, not just Trait Tree. So even stronger prismatic than we had originally given it credit for. And look at the sweep that absolutely came from that. That was Bean pushing level 10 right there. Oh my God, 2 graves in shop, and she's going to manage to ignore it. So this is where you play the bard. This is it right here. This is what I was talking about. The tech in the 1v1 situation. If you find a bard, you just throw them on your board, take that % chance of getting it added to, or having that massive HP pool added to your next combat. Bean opting not to doing it, not to do it, sorry. Winn-Dixie, let's flip back over to them and see if they have teched the bard in. I doubt that they would have. They have not. So neither of these players looking to kind of pull what really is just a 1v1 tech.
Well, hold really quickly here because they have a lot of gold and they're rolling for an Aurelian Soul. They've also started holding on to every LeBlanc possible, 2 away from the A Soul, have the LeBlanc 2 for fun, just to see if they're able to
Ooh,
deny
Blitz
as
2.
much as
Man,
possible. They don't
opting
have any
not.
other duplicators. They, oh, one off, hold on. I don't think you sell your board here. I think that's a little bit too
No.
risky against what's been concocted. But honestly, you know, I say
So
this, I would
close.
have actually minded a sell board situation because I think a 3-star Aurelian Soul, as long as you say luck out from selling just the Shen and the Fiora, might have been able to still like counteract everything that you see here. It's a huge amount of damage. But for now, Vin-Dixie might be wishing for what could have been here right now. It seems like they're just not going to have enough to avoid the cutscene. Yeah, with that though, we are now loaded into our game. We are given the gold augments immediately, and I see the big bang being
Do
over
it.
here at the very least. Ah, come now.
Boo.
Let me have more hero augments. That's Incredibles, and that's a Wendy's over there. So I don't even know. What are you thinking so far?
Sir, sir, this is a Wendy's.
Sir? Oh wait, hold
Opting for
on.
the
I gotta
booster
call this
pack.
out. They got the booster pack shiny over there in the bottom left corner. Go down to the Wendy's. This is the
Yeah.
effect for booster pack if you haven't seen. It makes you a little bit shiny, and you get 1% AD and AP on your unit as well. So it doesn't really do anything, but it does nothing in the best possible way, just like a holographic card in a real life TCG.
Listen, you say it does absolutely nothing, but that is more than the entire silver augment of placebo.
That's true. Yeah.
So like that's double what a placebo does. So you are literally 2 times doing nothing. And we all know that 2 times nothing.
At the very least, I think this is also kind of like aura farming a little bit too, where you could just keep this Mordekaiser on your bench too and just deal psychic damage to folks as they scout around and look at how shiny your bench is. So
That's what PSA
interesting thing to
graded
see.
cards are.
Yeah, exactly. You got to get this shift, see if this is a PSA 9 or maybe even a PSA 10 Mordekaiser. I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably only an 8.
Yeah, like the let me tell you, the Mace has seen better days, so I'm not 100% sure. To really quickly try to step back a little bit to reality. I have no idea. We do see a Nova emblem actually picked up here. That is on the side of Umbreon over here. And this is something that I think all three of us, you, myself, and Kate, were talking about early on when we were getting ready for prep here, because it gives you so many stats once you finally manage to get Nova online. Sorry, cover that unit. How much health does it have left? Oh, we only got a second. Ah, we missed it. It looked like
Less
one.
single digit. Single
It
digit.
must have been single digit. My goodness.
Yeah, incredible moment right there. But of course, Vel'Koz is one of those Vel'Koz.
Sorry for putting it in the brain earlier. We're
Uh,
thinking of Belveth.
Belveth, yes, the other unit. Belveth
Many
is
bit.
one of those incredibly strong early game units because of the way that she stacks. So not overly surprised in that victory right there, but it is what it is. But we definitely are going to have to keep an eye on this board because of this Nova spat, without a doubt. Nova being one of the strongest boards that you can play at this point in time.
And I'll call it out too, because we did briefly hover the emblem, and I think people might be confused by what I was talking about. Where 300 health and 20% crit. That's strong, but don't get me wrong. But it doesn't seem like a crazy stat stick. You're forgetting that when Nova 5 is active, you get the Striker Selector, which is able to grant even more bonuses to your Nova units once you are electing to use it on the emblem holder. Which I think for a lot of folks, if you find the emblem, that's what your plan is in the first place. Let's take a look at how things are going to shape up with the gods, though, as we got some pretty exciting stuff happening. Because whenever you have Fresh, whenever you have those random boons come out, you get to some pretty scary things pretty quickly.
Yeah, and again, Thresh being who I mained in League of Legends will always be what I go to. So, the God of Pacts in this time around, there's a lot. I mean, it really should be more chaos than pacts, if you ask me, because it is mystery loot, it is random boons, it is roll the bones kind of stuff. Like it is no direct known benefit.
Yeah, but also you can hit some really interesting options here or there. One of my favorite ones, like to give the example of so far, is Fresh rolled into an Evelyn bonus, where Evelyn has
Mm.
some very high gold rewards. They're usually offset by the fact that you take some health damage whenever you do, but that's always based on the number of other folks who take it. And if Fresh selects it, no one else is taking it. So you just get the gold free and clear, right? Like there's a lot of really interesting interactions you kind of end up with as you look through it.
Yeah, so very, very curious set again. I mean, we talked about how the two previous ones, in terms of the Yasuo and Ari, kind of complemented and conflicted one another. This time around, you have a very straightforward Soraka's just going to help you live longer kind of god boons, rewards all the way throughout. And then the other side, like we were talking about, you have kind of the chaos of who knows what it is exactly that's going to be coming to you. And is this, I believe this is the first time that we've had the MF on board. We didn't see it last game.
I don't think we did actually. So this is going to be a pretty interesting choice, and this is one of the things to talk about here. Gun Goddess is Misfortune's trait. It means that she's able to pick her class a little bit here as she goes on through. Right now, she's a conduit, but she can also be a challenger or a replicator. Conduit, though, is the favorite of most because that is what allows that Victor Misfortune composition that we were
Yes.
talking about to really come online, and that can lead to some pretty terrifying stuff as the game goes on. Since we already have the Roston side too, I expect that's what Swifty is going to be eyeing to move towards.
Yeah, it's this is honestly an interesting opener for this board, with the Rost coming in very early as well as the MF already, only being in 2-6, right? Uh, the Aatrox is only a 1-star. They don't have a Gragas just yet from what we saw, so they are very lacking in that front line compared to where you would typically find yourself early on. But a lot of that is because they have the 3 costs, several of the 3 costs that this board requires already. So it will be funny to see how they manage to continue going through it while we have a second Nova player, it looks like here. More on the lost streak this time, though.
I was gonna say, I think we have a lot of folks eyeing Nova at least in the early game, and that really does make sense, right? Like Nova gives you a lot of really easy benefits for not a lot of cost here at the end of the day. So, for example, if you're putting in the two one cost Nova units being the Caitlyn and the Aatrox, Aatrox is giving you a bunch of extra armor and magic penetration, which is just going to be useful no matter what stage of the game you get. And meanwhile, the Caitlyn's going to be giving you 3 attack speed. That all works together really cleanly no matter which way you go.
Yeah, and this time on kind of that same note of just overall what people are focusing, it looks like we don't have any anima players going for
Mm.
that loss streak. Just let's drop down to the very bottom of the board because if anima is being played, that's where it's going to be. No, we have Primordian being the focus there, and Umbreon, I believe, was our winner of the last game, is also kind of in that bottom two, and they're also fishing for that Nova Timebreaker kind of combination. So, very curious that I mean like you said, a lot of people are chasing it in the early game because it does give you those very, very early benefits. But having so many players fishing for it right now, someone's going to have to make an incredibly strong pivot in early, the early mid to the mid.
I think Umbreon is really setting herself up for success, though, right? Because she already has Timebreaker, and it means if she wins, she gets a bunch of free XP. She's able to skip levels. Awesome. If she loses, though, she's getting access to these free rerolls, which gives her more opportunities to find some of these late game Nova units that she needs to get to 5, or the final carry that she's planning on using with that Nova emblem as well. All kind of works out pretty cleanly, if you ask me, and that means that she doesn't have to worry quite as much as some other folks here. Now we're getting Prismatic coming in here, though. We are going to see another one of these lobby-defining shifts.
Prismatic Ticket is a must click in this set right now, in my opinion, and apparently not theirs. That's totally fine. But because of how strong Econ is, because of how important it is to hit your 3 stars, be they 3 or 4 costs, I cannot fathom opting to skip it.
I mean, I think for Nova Weeb, it looks like they're trying to go more for a fast 8 option, and they want to try to find ways to preserve health in the immediate term. But I agree, it is a lot harder to say no to Prismatic Ticket than it was in the previous set, right? Where, don't get me wrong, there was still reroll comps in Lore and Legends, but to go from a set where one of the stated design aims on the very onset of the set was, oh yeah, this set's going to have just less reroll opportunities here and there, to move into this set where, oh my goodness, Space Gods has reroll out the wazoo, right? Like there's a lot of different ways that you could play reroll either at the 1 and 2 cost level or go deeper at the 3 or even 4 cost level if you're absolutely insane and do some crazy stuff with the meeples. Like it is incredible to see all these opportunities really creep up here.
Yeah, I mean, you sent me a list of the top compositions, right? The ones that are doing incredibly well, or at least the most sought after. And out of 12 of them, 6 are reroll.
Yeah, which again, far cry from last set. So I guess it goes to kind of show, right? Like players, like strategies come and go, sets change, and players adapt overall. But if you develop that reroll bone early, it just takes a couple of days to figure out how to flex it and work out the muscle one more time, right?
Yeah, that's all it is, right? It's falling back into old habits more or less is what a lot of players who are used to the older sets are looking for. Whether or not any of these are new players is a whole different thing. We did know actually that BK from our last game, that was the very first game that he had played on this set at all. So good on them for managing a 4th place, like a top 4 in your very first game on a new set that other people have been playing and are in a tournament for. Got to be proud of yourself, and it certainly seemed like they were.
Uh,
At this point, there could be other players that are also, this is only their second game.
I also have to say really quickly too, and I hate myself for saying this, but we have a little bit of time because we just went to the God Altar. I believe we got to see Twisted Fate cast over there, and if you don't know, one of the interesting things about Fate Weaver is that it has opportunities to re-roll any luck-based odds that you get. So Twisted Fate normally draws one numbered card and does damage based on this. This means that Twisted Fate was able to draw 2 cards, pick the higher, and they had to choose between 6, 7. I feel like I have to call it out. I feel bad. I know people have been trying to find the clip of it to post on social media for, and this is true, mad likes, but we'll have to see exactly how that shapes out here at the end of the day. And that's going to be enough, if memes will be enough, I suppose, to get a little bit deeper into this lobby.
Don't let your dreams just be memes or
Never, never,
something.
never.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. Either way, shout out to Artemis too for a successful landing as
Dang
we
right.
find ourselves with Nova Brawler and Primordian on the board right here. Primordian obviously being the exact opposite of space.
Yeah, pretty much here. And I gotta say, Primordian has been really stressful to kind of watch going through some of the early set mechanics here, just because Primordian at the very first couple days of the PBE cycle really wasn't a trait. There was a lot of folks trying to make it work. It just didn't have the stats either in terms of the units or in terms of the little Primordians that kind of come in through these fights to really have enough staying power. But nowadays, it really has found its stride, and people are doing some pretty incredible work with it.
Yeah, I think it's very strong early. And
Mhm.
the biggest reason is because it is ultimately becomes an econ trait when you play all three, right? When you play the two is when you start spawning in the swarmlings. When you have the 3-star, you spawn more swarmlings, but you also gain a random 1 or 2 cost champion.
Yeah, and I will say, like, we're watching two different people playing the Primordians. Wendy's is using the more traditional kind of version that you would see here, where you're going to be free starring everything, but you're also trying to run this duo carry in the form of the Akali and the Belveth. Early on, Belveth is going to be the main damage dealer. Late, Akali is able to go absolutely insane, especially if you're able to tech in a few more Nova units to really light the way. It'll be
Mhm.
interesting to see if that's exactly how this is the Wendy's is going to be able to go, especially as other players are beginning to catch up with them.
I'm sorry. The smoothness of throwing the name in just absolutely wired me. It's going to be very interesting to see how Sir This is a Wendy's.
Yeah,
Just
like
it sounded like you were interrupting yourself. It was amazing. So good,
uh,
so well delivered. I'm sorry. Absolutely
no,
ruined me.
perfectly. Like
Um,
sometimes
almost
sometimes you can't cast the commentators, but other times you do have to commentate the commentary a tiny bit, right? Like I get it.
you really do. You really there's only so professional that you and I are allowed to be, right?
I
It,
mean,
it, it
I mean, now we're just interrupting ourselves, but do we also talk about this Fiora stage 3-7? Because that's also another really big hit here, especially because, like we were talking about earlier, Fiora is able to get that additional health regen bonus here whenever she's able to get wins. So I don't imagine we're going to see Bug be too thrilled about that, just because it seems like they're not been able to get too many crazy cash outs just yet off their anima. But at the same time, they could still win streak into something moderately okay, depending on how well this goes.
I mean, she has a lot of gold. She is starting the roll down now as well, so I wouldn't be too shocked to see a transition. It's going to be good though, because again, when you have been playing that anima, you are looking for the lost streak, right? So getting the early Fiora does mean you're going to be able to recoup some of the HP that comes from playing the lost streak. Um,
Excuse me,
go
two
ahead.
Fiora. I think they actually already got the cash out, and the cash out was two Fioras.
Oh,
I thought you always got some form of item from an anima cash out, and I don't think I've seen
I mean, they
just two Fioras. We'll have to look at the loot table later because I'm really curious about this. For now, again, it's just like we were talking about, trying to find these angles, trying to find these ways to just stabilize here. Now you've begun to lost streak that tiny bit more, and so far, I don't think Bug has found it just yet.
they're certainly doing their best to say the least. That's another Rek'Sai with 1 HP, by the way.
Yeah, pretty
We've
much.
seen a lot of units barely surviving combats so far. I'd like to go to Grimm's board because he's at 104 HP,
Hmm.
which tells me there's probably also a Fiora there.
Well, the 104 I think
No,
actually
it's
comes
not.
from the Soraka buff
It's-
that we saw, which raises your max health
Ah,
when you
yes,
come
thank you.
through. So that is going to be pretty nice. It does, however, show that they only get to 98 before that initial round, so they're still looking pretty strong here, all things considered. It's now just going to be a question, though, of how they're able to continue to turn this around. Remember, this is one of these players that took the new recruit. That's going to allow them to really tech up quickly. And it also means that they might be able to get the Nova online a little bit faster. Oh, also, they could just get the Fiora 2 right now themselves. My goodness.
Oh, why not, right?
Yeah.
Why not? You're already up there. You get it in, get the additional HP coming back. A lot of items need to go out, so you finalize your board. This is one of those moments that some players refer to as getting dizzy, where you're not
Mhm.
able to completely finalize a transition within the round required. You need to put all of the items on. They do go onto the Kindred in that backline for the most part. Fiora, thankfully, though, is given the Challenger spat here, which is quite interesting to go in tandem with a Darkstar unactive trait.
I mean, I gotta say, that works out pretty nicely here. The attack speed is good, and Darkstar, if we could cover that one more time, I actually forget the innate abilities that Darkstar get. No, it's just a good solid 25 AP AD stat stick here. So honestly, Fiora doesn't hate that at the end of the day here. I think I personally prefer to see at least one of those items, particularly that Deathblade, end up on her
Mhm.
though, just because, don't get me wrong, Kindred 2 very strong right now. You also have 5 Nova active as well. Actually, no, wait, never mind. 5 Nova being active means that it just goes on Kindred. Ignore me. I'm
There
just
you go.
prattling about. I have no idea what I'm talking about here.
You fell to the classic blunder of
Mhm.
overthinking, right?
Hey,
We were both very aware of what we were looking at, and you start talking about one unit. It's very hard to talk about a 2-star 5-cost unit and not say, why haven't you itemized them?
yeah, and again, it really just does come down to the fact that you have already activated 5 Nova. I think Umbreon, who, by the way, has also managed to hit her own Kindred 2,
Kiss,
has
kiss.
also just about to hit 5 Nova as well. So all that does work pretty strongly here. And this is, by the way, when we can really see the effects of that Nova emblem after this fight, because it seems like that's a little bit rougher for Umbreon here, unfortunately.
Yeah. Another fun thing with Fiora, which we haven't mentioned, she does not instantly kill the last
No.
unit on your opponent's board. It is specifically a 1v1. So if it is a 2v1, you don't instantly win. And if the opponent's one unit kills the Fiora before the other unit, you still have to finish the combat normally. It's an interesting thing, and from a programming standpoint, I would imagine it was quite fun to figure out.
Yeah, I think so too. Just again, double checking. Hey, are these two the last 2 units of the game? If so, play this fun little cutscene and figure out how exactly you're going to be able to move on through. I will say, being able to find the excuse me, the Master E2 is going to be a pretty nice pickup here in order to try to really activate Nova. We'll double check a little bit deeper to see how it goes, but I got to call out one more thing. Look at the right side of your screen. Every single person is fully committed to Fresh. Soraka was not tempting enough with heals throughout this game for everyone. A few folks may have taken excuse me, a few folks may have taken one here or there, but the God of Randomness really is getting his dues paid right now.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes frontline isn't what you want to think about. You don't want the player HP. You don't want the additional Giant's Belt or other items that come from that defensive standpoint if you're already getting them. So the additional chaos that comes with it, you're saying, listen, I've already got my Thornmail or I've already got my tank items. I need something else. You're going to just go with the randomness because that's what it's going to hand you. But every single player committing to the exact same god, considering it's the randomness, is hilarious.
One thing I also want to call out too is that we actually have a lot of folks going Master Yi here, which is something that I really wouldn't have expected going into this game, just because Master Yi is something where you kind of need to have a bunch of things work out correctly. The most predominant one being the fact that you're able to get the right psionic items to sort of throw on him, because if you go psionic 4, you're able to find those additional bonuses that further buff up your units even more. For here, though, it just really has been two different people pick target lock optics. Another who had the Nova emblem just had a really solid option to move on through. So it just works far better than I think I would have expected coming on here.
It's one of those, you play what you hit, right?
Yeah.
But you also typically you want to avoid things that are contested. And Master Yi isn't normally contested, so it's very
yeah.
curious that it's three-way contested this time around. As we see Swifty doing surprisingly well in this combat with the MF on the back line, as well as one of the silliest little things is that UFO flying around.
Yeah, is incredible to see, but I think because we're watching Lena stay at 8, I'm pretty sure she's stuck in a cutscene, and that is going to be our first player going out just before the God boons come. And in this day and age, everyone's just going to get a fresh boon. It's just going to be a question of how much items or gold they want. And for those of you who don't know, still learning the set, Fresh is a very interesting option here because he's going to roll a dice every single round for you and give you a bonus based on that, with 5 or 6, I think, being things that are stat buffs that buff your entire team, and everything else being gold or even item components that can move on through. So something we'll have to watch is how all of these players adapt to some of these bonuses coming in here.
Need a god? Why not Thresh?
Yeah.
Like I said, the Zoidberg. It's one of those things where I feel like
I
it's
think Fresh is a little
very...
too cool, by the way, to be compared to Zoidberg, but I'll let you finish your point.
Hey, don't you ever disrespect Dr.
Oh,
John Zoidberg.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was that personal.
Best character in the show.
That is true.
There's so many people who are gonna hate me for saying that. My wife is one of them, by the way.
Either way, I'm sorry. I cut off what I'm sure was a very brilliant point to make a silly joke. Keep going.
I have no idea anymore.
Oh,
It's
now I feel
completely
bad.
irrelevant. No, what I was kind of following up on something comedic that I had said earlier on, wherein we have the god of essentially chaos, and everybody has aligned with that, which is just, that doesn't make sense because by chaos theory, someone has to not. But here we are, where they all are have chosen the same thing. This Diana, by the way, has chewed through the entire team on her own with, I mean, probably perfect items.
That is perfect items for the Diana. Can we quickly hover Arbiter actually? Because this is again part of the TFT
Hmm.
homework that I
Hmm.
talk about. We have to check to see what everyone's doing, and this is actually only an Econ Arbiter. So I was expecting to see something like every free attacks gain ability power or something like that for the sheer amount of damage that Bugs Diana was doing here, but no, she's just ripping through on her own. It's pretty impressive.
I mean, let's talk about the back line here.
Hmm.
That's where I'm gonna leave it. Go ahead, take a
Oh,
look
okay.
at what
Sorry, I
you
will
want.
talk
Like,
about the backline, but you are right. It is kind of insane to watch.
we don't
The anima
literally
item
have
they
to
were able to
talk
get.
about it, but that Aurora is
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah, Guiding Hex is one of these anima items that come on through, and I believe this is just an additional bit of damage, like a missile that flies out whenever you cast. So works out really nicely here, but you can't do all that much when a Master Yi is stuck in your face, and I think that means that Bug is going to have to watch a cutscene as well.
Bug, I did my best. I tried to talk you up. There's only so much I could do. Unfortunately, Yi does what Yi does, be it in this game or any other game mode. Um, a fed Yi is an issue, and that is unfortunately what ran down your backline right there. As we do finally have a Vex coming in with. So, two of these three items are great.
Yes.
Edge
And
of
the third
Night's
one's also here.
curious.
I mean, I can give the silly analysis answer, which is Edge of Night's okay here because it's an attack speed steroid, and it means if Vex is stuck in combat in some weird way, she's able to get that little extra second to try to stick around longer, try to find these advantages. In reality, you have to remember the fact that you're given items to slam, and once you have done that, your job is to try to figure out how to get those stats in here. It's okay if it's not optimal. Sometimes you just want power where you can. And as much as I think I would debate whether it would be better to give Vex the Edge of Night versus the Master E and trade around the Quicksilver and the Edge of Night. Oh, that's just a KO. Look at that.
Spatula. That is
Sure.
Lena
This is a
Bug.
Wendy's. I'll keep saying it. I don't care what you're going through right now. Like,
Apparently, I was just
it's
going to try and talk about the people that have been eliminated, but if you're over there having a Whopper, who am I?
well, I think I must be down the street then. But honestly, Wendy's got some pretty good paid promotional stuff in here to get a player sponsored. So I don't want to call out any other kind of rival brands that might be involved. But other than that, you are completely right. Swifty, PBE, so both going down here. We already have our top four, and that's kind of scary because we have a 108 at the very top of the leaderboard,
Mhm.
continuously win streaking, kind of serving as a terrifying Grim Reaper for the rest of this lobby.
Yeah, really showing why this is one of the most sought after boards that's out there in terms of playing the Nova with the Marauder in the support of that as well. But I really think it's the Primordian that kind of set them up for this position early on, giving them the extra econ while still also being a combat augment. So sorry, we're actually looking at Umbreon right now. We're not even looking at Grim. I thought we were on. I'm totally turned around. That was Wendy's board. What just happened with my eyesight right there? Kate, look at Grim. Look at Grim. We were trying to talk
Let's
about
take a look
Grim.
over there.
Nova. There it is. This is your soup board.
Hmm. And again, this is far less soupy than what you're used to seeing here. The only legendary units that we have are the Fiora and the Shen. However, important adaptations are coming up for the Shen here, where I think previously folks were really focusing in on the additional health shield that his sword would provide. Nowadays, people are more willing to throw it onto any of these attack speed carries, try to give a little bit more of a bonus. But now I think we're in for a treat because we have two of our streakers going in against each other, and it's just going to be a question, I think, how effectively this Fiora can hang on when she's focused down by the Kindred, and the answer is not too long at all.
Yeah, not even remotely. The itemization on Umbreon's side here of that Kindred just
Oh wait,
melted through the Fiora, but it didn't matter in the end. Pull up the damage chart if you don't mind from that one. We'll take a look at the elimination, but holy cow, 10,000 damage being dealt by that
can we
backline Kindred.
extend that actually and compare and
Unfortunately,
contrast really quick?
we
Yeah,
have
right
lost to
there.
Wendy's.
Oof. Yeah, Wendy's has closed down. Unfortunately, wasn't able to compete at the end of the day here. But don't get me wrong, top four here is incredibly powerful for them. Was able to get really far with Primordian, and I would also say too that's around where I would expect that composition to sort of end up here, right? All things being equal.
I mean, all things aren't equal, especially in the eyes of the Thresh. He does choose and allows the dice to choose their favorites as well. And this game, it very much is looking like Grim is the preferred child, probably the firstborn out of everyone here, especially with the little kitty cat as their choice of little legend too. I mean, everybody loves a cat.
I mean, do you think the 19 game round win streak has anything to do with it here? Or you think it's just the cat little legend coming out?
Oh, it's obviously the cat.
Fair
How
enough.
else do you get to a 19 win streak if not through, 9 lives?
That's entirely fair here. And I do got to call out, they just got even more powerful again because they were able to throw out the Jin. I'm pretty sure that his shred stacks with the Aatrox shred as well. So things get really weak really quickly for the rest of the board here. This Kindred is basically going to be doing true damage to anyone in their path.
Heads up, Buttercup.
Oh, this Fiora lives for so long
wow.
as well. Holy cow. The Challenger Spat is definitely a nice little addition onto this unit, who is already incredibly strong. And again, we saw Grim hit this 2-star very early. Not the first one to hit the 2-star Fiora, but still incredibly early. So it is going to come down to Grim, who we saw in the last lobby, likely going toe-to-toe with the Umbreon. But we do still have Nova Weeb, who's not playing Nova, by the way. At no point have they had Nova active on their board this game, which I have despised the entire game. However, they
time.
are still clinging on, still showing minor signs of life with this Vanguard Shepherd, and not actually managing to get 3 mech on board.
Well, I called this out earlier. I got to call it out again. There is a chance, there is a world that we could see a 3-star forecast. It's actually even closer than you may think here because there is a golden dupe on Nova Weave's bench here and already holding on to effectively 6-7 Aurelian Souls. That wasn't a meme. That was me correcting myself in real time. Do not hold that against me. That means that they do have a chance to. I hear everyone mocking me right now. It's not very kind of either of you. This is for charity, and you're laughing at me. There is a lot of options here to try to go for this push. It is going to be a bit of a risk, though. It's only one ASOL off. I think you got to start selling your board, seeing if you can downgrade to find something. But I think Nova Weave is going to call it here. That is so close at the end of the day.
Not enough to sell. You take a look at what they have on their board right now, and there's no major sell that gets them a lot of gold, right? I also want to point out here that would you consider their items to be optimal? Because they have 8 reforgers that they have not used.
That happens whenever you get the golden remover here. It just turns all of your regular removers into reforgers, which is really nifty. I have to say, it's quite nice. But yeah, I think they got some pretty good options here, all things considered. They were able to find some pretty strong benefits here for the Aurelian Soul, was able to get some stacks in here, there, and everywhere. For now, though, that's not going to matter too much because now we have to figure out what our final 2 are going to look like. And just like last game, I think, at least for Grim, we could have predicted they were going to be in this top 2. I would almost argue in stage 3, right? Like, they were playing an incredibly dominant TFT game all throughout. Meanwhile, for Umbreon, she's also been doing strong, don't get me wrong, but it's taken a little bit more time to really get the ball rolling, even though we saw that Nova Emblem early and called it out as a very big difference maker for a lot of players right now this set.
Now, I absolutely must draw one crucial piece of information to your attention.
Please do. Yeah.
What are the 2 chibis being used? Or the 2 little legends?
Okay, let me take a look. One I believe is a cat. And
They're
I think
both
the other one I think that's also, yes, I believe that is a cat. Yes, there's two cats.
So, is it a good game played, or is it just using a cat?
Neither of these cats are penguins, so I wouldn't know.
Well, the penguin went 7th
And
and
we don't
4th.
talk about that because the penguin's cooler older brother went fourth.
Uh-huh. And both cats are 1st and 2nd.
Mm.
Mm. I wonder you know what? I'm not even I was gonna say how many cats do you think have eaten penguins over the years? But that's such a wild statement that
It
we're gonna
is.
move on from it immediately.
Well, okay,
Immediately,
because
bro.
my brain has now started trying to figure this out, so that is not a fun thing to do, and I will force you to work this out with me when we're back on the break. I don't want to subject anyone else to this conversation. But for now, though, I think it is just going to be a question of what can Umbreon do to stick around at this time, because let me tell you, they have built out a very strong board themselves. They're able to get some good resistances here, there, and everywhere off the back of the Nova emblem.
Oh my
I think it
gosh.
really does come down to that Graves, though, that found its way into the backline, really prevents Grim from walking away with plus 100 health. That's insane. And they also, the thing I was truly building up to, are so close
Bard?
to being able to play the Master Yi 3. They're actually holding on to quite a bit on their bench to the point where Grim has also picked one up on their bench as well, just to try to deny it.
So again, no Bard being played on this board for Grim. They're not trying to pick up the dupe. I understand it. This is a very strong board. There's nothing really that you want to be replacing that wouldn't be significantly weakening it. Umbreon also had a locked shop wherein she will have picked up a Shen 2 to have on their board, as well as everything else that they had going on for them. As you mentioned,
Oh,
that
well
is a
said.
that is a beautifully gold shot, but not what they're looking for. They don't actually want 5 costs here. They want the Yi. They are
Yeah.
they don't have a dupe either, so they're just gonna continue to sit 2 away as Grim is holding 1. So it is unfortunate that the hit has not come through this time. Get these items out, get them on, make your decisions quick as this combat rolls in. And at 7-1, Umbreon's almost it's hard to tell. It would depend on how many units the victory came by, but if Umbreon lost, this could be 1 life.
Yeah, and also I gotta call this out again. We have to watch Graves here because that really was the difference maker in that last fight. Graves was able to work his way through the tanks, through the Fiora, and it seems like is doing the same thing again this time
Oh
as well.
goodness.
It's a lot of HP that Grim has, but it's also gonna be a lot they have to work through here.
To quote Kate, holy shit. And I know it sounds like I'm just being facetious, but literally that is all she said in our ear during that entire combat, as Pro still managed to stay on topic and talk about the Graves. But truly, if we could pull up the damage chart for that combat to compare the two, um, like 8,000 damage to the 10 and 6, but it's the consistency of the damage. You'll notice the top 4 units all in that 4 7, like 4 7 8 8 versus this single unit of 10,000 and then the 6 6. It's having multiple carries at this point in time that is making one difference, but you also have the Graves who, continues to stack.
We're also seeing a bit of flip in priorities here, where Umbreon has went from trying to go for the Master Yi to switching things up, and now just trying to deny the Jin 3 actually from Grim here. So a very strong adaptation here, and just a lot of trust that Umbreon has in the strength of her board.
And I think it's well deserved. Here, this is what I was talking about in terms of the Graves stacking. You get to purchase upgrades for them. So Graves already being a phenomenal unit on the board, doing incredibly well. As you can see in the damage chart again, hitting 11,000 damage that time, managed to tech their way into the back line one more time. You get to continue purchasing additional stats for him. He's going to continue to get better. Unfortunately, the Thieves Gloves roll this time is very bad.
I wouldn't have been surprised if we actually saw the items traded between the Fiora and the Greys, but a little too late for that right now. I also think this might be a rougher bit of positioning here they have to work through, just because now you're going to have the Rammus in basically pole position to try to counter this Graves, and Fiora might be able to work her way over there too, but it's a lot of damage to work through.
Yeah, it is a damage difference. This time it was the Aurora doing 2,300 true damage. That is a heck of a way to chew through a tank.
I gotta say that is incredible to sort of watch. Umbreon really, I cannot stress enough just how much Umbreon has turned things around. But I also want to take a second to highlight the Nova emblem one more time. Can we go back over to that board really quickly? Just click on the emblem because that's how we get to see the Nova Strike here. Gaining 45% attack speed, armor, magic resist is awesome. But the fact that everyone else is getting those benefits too is just frankly insane, right? Like that isn't going to be a ton of stats, but stacked across an additional 10 units is going to be a lot. And it's going to give Graves even more survivability as they work through everything here.
It's again at the emblem. Allies deal 10% stacking true damage. Is nuts when you have a unit like the Graves out here doing as much as the Graves out here is doing. Looks like the Fiora actually got onto the Graves this time around, but was not able to finish it off, amazingly because the Kench turned. I mean, Umbreon won the last game, and it looks like she's, in a phenomenal position to do it again. And I think the Jin denial is a huge part of that. Very good on you for identifying the switch, no longer chasing the 3-star of their own, and instead saying, I can just beat you at the game that you're trying to play. A lot of gold in everybody's hand, by the way.
They have to pivot around, though. Grim actually, I think, pivoted away from the Jin, was trying to look to see if they could find, I believe the Vex came up here. That's their second 2-star Vex, actually. We should actually look over. No, excuse me, I'm cutting myself off. That's a 3-star Vex. Grim lost 107 HP to get to this point where they are able to have this 1v9 situation. Look at the ghosts coming all out. They're all spooky. Umbreon can't do anything to deal with it, and I think that's going to be enough. We're going to stage 8. Deeper than I think I've ever seen in a game of TFT. With 1 3-star 5 cost, will Umbreon be able to match?
So of all of the times, play a Bard. Play a Bard right now. Take your 20% chance to get an insanely huge, massive frontliner that is going to be in front of this Vex that's already doing absolutely everything. Nope. Doesn't choose to do it. Totally fine. Umbreon, you need to hit your own right now. Please, Kate, I know you're doing social media things and I appreciate you for it, but what are you going to do here? Like, Umbreon, you have to do something.
Oh, I was going to say Graves 3 could be an option, but it looks like that has been sold as well. I'm not sure.
I think she's given up.
I think so too. I've never seen a level 8 board.
She gave up.
Yeah.
She just sold.
Aw. I've never seen level 8 before, so I have stage 8. I have no idea what the damage scaling is at this point here, so that is incredibly... Oh, that's a lot of damage!
Let's take a look while we hover over the emblem here.
Kate. It is going to be the altar, so that's the sacrifice one that we were taking a look at earlier, so could work out pretty good, but it's also been re-rolled immediately, and we also have a Nova Core immediately re-rolled into there. That's incredible, honestly. That's just really strong. My goodness.
Yeah, so again, we have the Primordian opener, that 3 Primordian going to be acting. We have another Nova emblem as well. I mean, Grim with another Nova emblem and an Anima emblem as well.
Yeah, I want to call it that Anima emblem really quickly here because very technically, this is the thing that enables you to go for 6 Anima here. That basically just gives you a loot drop every single time you win. I haven't actually looked to see what the loot table is for it, but I think for now, it's just going to be a health sponge. We haven't seen like too many Anima units really pop in here, and also, as we talked about previously, the call of the Nova emblem is so hard to overcome. We might just see it fully ignored as a stat stick here.
Yeah, who knows, right? I mean, Nova can be very much an end game thing just as much as it is an early and mid game. The stats kind of spread out quite well all the way across it. So be interesting in the overall to just kind of follow the path, see where absolutely everybody goes. The early win losses, it's hard to judge anything off of here, right? So Kate, if you would be a gem, if we could just flip through everybody and see what has been selected for their very first augments here. We have Advanced Loan, that's always a big gamble. Hop up to Yadarp here. We have Savings Account. Okay, also nice. Again, a very econ base, Spreading Roots. We've seen that one a bunch. Booster Pack, we've seen that one. Getting the early... What was that? Sorry.
Shiny Vagar. Just, again, I got to call out the hits.
Yeah,
Simple as
I
that.
mean, that's a fantastic one because it's, everything's a short joke when you're the one standing out like that. It's hard to stand
Mhm,
out at everybody's knees, but it is what it is. And
mhm.
then we head up to Kate in real life, she says. She said that, not me. I'm just repeating it. It's the funny things that come out of her ear or her mouth into our ear.
Let me tell you, I am
Lester
usually
Dupin.
so good at hiding production notes that are whispered into my ear. It is so difficult when I work at Ohgawdkate event because Kate is really funny, kind of through
She's really
all
funny.
of this sort of stuff. So I'm pretty good at holding myself together, but every now and then there's just something that breaks me that tiny little bit.
Tiny? Really? You had to go there?
Yeah, it's a short joke. What can I say?
Because she's 4'9", really? You had
Yeah.
to you gotta call out the little people
Listen,
like
I'm a
that?
commentator. I gotta sprinkle it in just a little bit where I can,
Oh,
right?
sprinkles because she's small? Really? You're going there now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What you gonna do about it?
Airplane joke. Well, uh,
Well,
like
here, let's.
no one will ever be able to say that we do not like our little ankle biter, right? So we do have Darkstar Vanguard going on here, but for the most part, everybody, all of the augments that we saw that we went through there, most leaned in towards some form of econ, right? Be it champions now, be it champion duplicators, be it gold now, gold later. Everybody is looking for that fast 8, fast 9.
Yeah, and actually, we are going to see our first instance of a repeat here, where we're back to Ari and Yasuo here, God of
Curious.
Opulence, God of the Abyss, not the one I thought it was going to be, but okay, you take your title, Yasuo. Good to see. So that is going to be another pretty big change of pace here, and Ari this time looks like she's going to be slated a bit more towards experience than gold. So this is a little bit more of a static route that you sort of see. Gold can be anything, even experience. Experience is just experience, right? There's not really too much you can kind of do. So that might shift a few more folks towards the Yasuo, especially if they're looking to go for some of these big Primordian reroll compositions that we've been seeing.
Yeah, speaking of, two Primordians right there, just in the shop. Nice little pickups and things you're definitely going to want to carry. Did I say two? Sorry, one of those was a Darkstar. My mistake on that.
Mm.
But yeah, the Darkstar Marauder coming in early, Vanguard kind of rolling this or rounding this comp out as well. Um, this is a play strong board moment for
Yeah.
PJ, right? They're playing best board and they're going to continue to econ upwards from here. They've got the win streak already going, but it looks like they're not going to be trying to hit 10. You know what? I say that, but then I took a look at their bench and they have clearly keyed the 2 units to the right hand side here, which are
Oh,
worth 3 gold.
sorry. Look at that wrap. That was beautiful that they were able to get against Win Dixie. Wasn't quite able to move on to the Ezreal as well, but like you were kind of talking about earlier, everything that we're sort of seeing happen right here for PJ is just about trying to maximize their board strength right now. One of the things that I think you see people fall into a trap of perhaps a little bit whenever they pick up the double duplicator here is that they try to hold on to it with the idea of, ooh, eventually this is going to be a 3-star 2 cost or a 3-star free cost, and I want to make sure I'm able to build up that strength as much as possible. But in reality, if you just get dropped a random free cost or even a random 2 cost in this instance, you're able to get a lot of board strength really, really quickly, and that's able to turn your econ trait into a combat trait, right? Like you're
Hmm.
actually actively trying to use these stats as you work your way on through. It looks like it's going to be up to folks like Just Bean to try to see if they can disrupt PJ Mango at the last second before they can go into that full win streak. But let me tell you, with a Thieves Gloves roll like this and PJ rushing to level 6, I don't really think there's going to be much that can be done to halt the roll.
No, this is the two sides that you have of how to play with your resources, right? You have PJ Mango Pie, who's clearly, very obviously looking to play with their resources by saving health. They're willing to spend gold to save health. That's what's happening here. That's why they hit that early level 6. Even though they barely made a 10 econ after the last fight, they said, I'm spending it all. I'm pushing levels to maintain my streak. Just Bean, on the other hand, did end up losing their streak, but they're playing the gold side of econ with that advanced loan, hitting that 50 gold very early. They want to continue onwards, and even way down here at Yadarp, same thing with the savings account. You can see when you earn, or after you earn 50 gold in interest, ergo needs to keep at this 50 gold constantly, only sitting at 16 earned in interest, but you cannot let yourself overroll or fast level or early level. This is a major gamble econ because you have to be able to play a strong enough board to save the HP, to get to that 50 interest earn, to get the true use of this.
It's actually a little bit higher here though, because your interest cap is increased to 70 when you have the savings account. So
True, my
you have a
apologies.
few more options to really get things going. It's just going to be a question of, well, geez, like, you're holding an extra 20 gold in your bank that's just not doing anything right now except giving you more money, giving you more of a late game opportunity here. Yadarp certainly knows how to pilot these situations. After all, they've won 2 of the past 3 Prismatic Poro Cups. They know a thing or two about team fight tactics. It's just going to be a question of how they're going to be able to convert away from this econ build into something that will actually be able to win some of these fights later on. I'm very curious to see how this is finally going to go. Just as I'm curious to see what the next augment is going to be, as Bean just reminded me, they took the advanced loan on stage 2-1. For me, that's one of the scariest times you can take it, just because you don't really have any insight into the odds for what the next one's going to be. You know, at the very least, it's not going to be a silver augment because, like, it's impossible to get downgraded from a silver to nothing. So that means either they're going to see silver and everyone else gets gold, or they're going to get gold and everyone else gets the prismatic. But here, maybe they could breathe a sigh of relief. This is the best case scenario for them, as they're only going to be a little bit down compared to everyone else.
Yeah, there's no way Heavy as the crown is taken here, right? Right? It's just not a thing. It's not a thing that you do. Is take Heavy. Is you don't take you don't you darp.
I mean,
Listen,
it gives a
you
lot of
know way more
stacking
about this game.
bonuses.
He knows
I can
way
see a
more about this
world.
game than I do.
Oh, it's
But
true.
like,
Okay.
yeah, okay. So, yeah, okay. He was spending more time thinking about best friends, surely, than not rolling Crown of Demacia. I mean, it's the situation that Yadarp is in. You cannot take Crown of Demacia because you don't have a strong enough board in the first place. And yes, it gives you a lot of stats on a single unit. That's not going to be enough to get you through this, especially when you have, like you have pointed out several times, PJ Mampai, who has been positioning their board so incredibly well. Look at the Akali wrap. If that was just a little different, that Akali goes straight onto that backline. If you have Crown of Demacia, round's over before it starts.
I mean, one thing that I'll say in Crown Demacia's defense, and I will note quickly too, it scares me as well. I do not like playing Crown of Demacia when it is offered to me. That being said, though, you pick it in situations where if you put it on this unit that's going to die, if that unit dies, you're going to lose the fight anyway, right? So it's designed to be a bit of a, hey, let's just get to the next fight thing. If I lose this, it doesn't matter too much. The problem, though, that arises, especially in the early game, is if you're not skilled at dodging the wrap, or if you're dealing with some of this crazy AoE damage, like we were talking about the Nami earlier, there's a lot of ways that you can get caught off guard. So it's a thing to make sure you really watch out for. And we actually haven't taken a look at Sarah too much here, but she's very close to get a pretty big Cho'Gath.
Which I love. I love. Here's the thing. I'm okay. Big Cho'Gath fan. Big Void fan. All of the Void characters within all of League of Legends. I love all of them. But I am a huge vertical player. I love vertical boards, right? Which means I love it when you can say I'm 3-starring this unit, and that's your game plan for an entire round is to just 3-star a single unit, and that's how Sarah's playing right now. They're going to have a very very big Cho'Gath in their hand shortly. They're on the loss streak as well. So they do have, the decent econ. They're getting low on health, still higher than Yadarp, but that's neither here nor there because he's just feeding face right now as it stands. But this is where you need to make your decision when you're losing. Will the 10 XP boost you to the level that you're going to need in order to stabilize, or do you need the damage, the buffs that you're going to be getting from the Yasuo?
Well, no, Yadarp, because I believe they're going to get cashed out either this round or next. I'm not 100% sure. Has actually fully committed to the Yasuo right now. So that is going to give them, and it looks like it is going to be in 2 rounds, excuse me. That does mean that when it is finally time for them to really get things going, they are going to be able to make a pretty impressive pivot. Another thing I got to call out, though, and the reason why I wasn't remembering whether they cashed out or not, is the fact that they actually haven't used any of these hexes yet. Both of them are just sitting inside their item bench. So that's
smart, though.
It's smart because you're guaranteeing losses, you're weakening board strength, but at the same time too, you're at 39 HP, my friend. Like that's gonna be a really
No,
risky thing.
but that's
And
not why I said
we
it's
know how
smart.
every okay, no, please, I want to say that.
I said, oh, okay, he used them now. So it completely invalidates my point.
Well, no, I want to hear it
But
anyway. I want to judge you.
the reason that I was saying it was smart is because, like you started out with your thought, he is going to be making a large pivot. So why place them down until you know what your pivot is? Why commit to the location of specific hexes until you know what boards you're going to be building? And then you can commit to best case situation hexes. He clearly said, I need to save HP instead, dropped them, and won that round.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, though, one thing I'll say is that in terms of TFT board construction, right, it's usually safe to assume that your
Mhm.
tank's going to go in that center hex and your carry's going to go in that back left hex, right? Like, it's just, I think, a pretty okay thing to assume. And now that we've seen that cash out, that's going to be a pretty big difference maker, right? They have already received enough gold to almost, thank you, cognitive tasks or tax or whatever Timebreaker is doing to me for giving us 59 out of 60. That really hurts. But here, you do have enough that you are able to get pretty close to the next serious breakpoint here. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a crazy roll down, even starting during the creep round, just to begin this transition.
I want to talk about the gods again for 1 second because only
course.
half the lobby has committed to one at this point in time, right? We have 2 that have committed to Yasuo, 2 that have committed to Ari, and then the other 4 players have all flip-flopped, be it gone to Ari first and Yasuo after, or vice versa. So having half the lobby undecided on what they want as their final boon is quite interesting because we have not had that yet.
I mean, it also is the way that I personally like to play, just because it opens yourself up to more options here and opens yourself up to more decisions. Granted, sometimes you get into a scenario where, say, for example, it's, oh, I don't know, Fresh and let's say Varus, where Varus can be incredibly situational, where you don't really want Varus in all these situations, and Fresh is just good, quote unquote, consistent randomness, which sounds like an
Consistent
oxymoron.
randomness.
But like, you are be able to find a few more interesting options that aren't directly tied to building out like 3 cost units or 5 cost units later on in the day, right? Like, there's more options that you could sort of play around with as you move on through.
Yeah.
Hello, Fiora. I just noticed it on the bench.
Not early though. 4-1 is okay for Fiora.
Hmm.
Actually, I guess that wasn't 4-1. It was already on the bench. Either way, this is a level 8, right? We're watching the heavy roll down for Sarah right here. See if she's able to build something phenomenal, if you will. But it looks like we're still sitting on, Shepherd Brawler. We do at least 2-star the LeBlanc. That is incredibly required at this point in time. Very interesting. I was about to say, I thought they were leaving the Alawi in that hex. I was about to say, very interesting to leave the Alawi in that hex. So the big things here, they need to, okay, they are opting to build. There it is. I was about to say, they need to open these. They need to get this, that rod picked up so that they could build the Ginsu's properly on the LeBlanc. An absolutely mandatory item. We've talked about it multiple times at this point. So good pivot for Sarah here. It's strong enough, right?
Yeah.
This should stabilize her for now, but there's definitely going to be more required to continue winning.
I was really worried, honestly, as we were starting to watch this fight, but they were able to find quite a few different options here. The only thing I want to see is just more item slams here. It's a lot of strength for leaving on the table, and it's the Apotheopic Forge that is going to be that final option. If you haven't seen, these are some of the new Ornn artifacts that have come on through, and I agree. I think Blade Work here, coming into the oh my goodness, LeBlanc is a very interesting option at the end of the day. Instead, it's going to be Echo's Patience, which also is kind of insane. I'm interested. I haven't seen this picked up just yet, but I also kind of want to peek back down to the Dark just because they were able to hit and then they lost. And now they're trying to find that classic out that we've been talking about all day, that mecha board, seeing what they can do here, there, and everywhere.
They do manage to hit the 2-star Asol as well as the 2-star mech for the frontliner here. They have the hexes on board. That's some good items on Asol too, by the way. I don't think enough people play the staff on Asol. It's definitely an old school one. It was what you used to do on the original Asol that was released. So very interested to see how they hold up. Look at the healing coming in too.
Looks can be deceiving.
Yeah, I gotta say, people don't really realize just how effective this tank unit is. A lot closer of a fight, by the way, than I think I sort of expected coming on
That was
through.
against
But
Sarah.
yeah, we now see again the bot two of the lobby really just dancing around each other while just being she's sitting high and mighty at the very top of the leaderboard.
Which again, that's what this is what Bean does. This is how Bean
Yep.
plays, right? She's very much a I'm saving my health kind of streaker in these games. But on a
Oh, sorry.
oh,
Sorry to cut you off.
please.
Did you see the item they picked up, the augment they picked up in silver? We completely cut over it. They went
Oh,
recombobulator. We didn't even
hell
call that
yeah.
out, and I can't believe we missed it because it went into
Yeah.
duo queue.
But here's the thing though. Taking advanced alone is a gamble. You talked about
Yeah.
that, right? You talked about the fact that the next augment you're getting is going to be lower. It was the best case scenario for it being a gold augment for everybody else. Recombobulator basically puts you back up there though, right?
Yeah.
You took that gamble. You're going to be weaker because you're basically down an augment, but Recombob costs up all of your units, right? So if you had a 2-star 3 cost, you now get a 2-star 4 cost, and that was probably the situation that she was in for the most part because of the additional gold that she started off with. Very good set of options, very good combination, but Azil does also exist in this game, has already committed to the RE God, and is running a beautiful 4-4 board.
Well, it's time to commit for everyone else here, and Ari is out of free experience. Instead, she's only going to give rerolls out here, which I think for some of the players who haven't committed to a god yet, that might be incredibly tempting. Just because that's going to give you the ability to really stabilize on level 8, find those last couple of units that you're really looking for here. We'll have to see if they're going to opt for that or nope. PJ actually decides to go for the Yasuo to get that final damaging hex, get that final, again, fourth item slot effectively on
Perfect
one of
split.
their units here.
Perfect split for gods.
Yeah.
So we were in a 4-4 situation of some people still needing to hit their boards. You can see the rerolls being spent very quickly by Azil right now, who amusingly also just beat first place of Bean. So
Yeah.
quite interesting situation there. Um, love to go take a look at the positioning that we have going on for just Bean first, and then the other Yasuo committers as well to see where these hexes are lying and what they're doing with them.
Yeah, and so far I don't think I see anything that's too insane. It seems like both Bean and Yudarp actually had
Here's
a
your Corky.
similar hex setup between the two of them. We also actually get to take a
Looks
look
can be
over here
deceiving.
where seven caretaker, shepherd, excuse me. I'm still learning some of these names as we kind of go on through. Is now fully active for Sarah, and that means that they, alongside Yudarp, are both really being able to stabilize here. Yudarp, I think, also was able to find, like we were talking about, the Fiora that we were talking about earlier, which means Yudarp is able to heal a little bit more, find a few more of these options to stay in the game.
Also has the graves on the board and a significant amount of gold as well here. So Yudarp in a very strong situation, low on HP, 2 lives I would say that they're finding themselves at right now. But again, this graves is going to continue scaling. He is sitting inside one of the hexes. Really needs to 2-star them for this to be, obviously incredible. But with that initial augment, being able to run the 70 gold and pick up all of the additional money that comes with that, that's where he's trying to get himself to right now. The stabilization has begun. I would not say that he is set at this point.
By the way, looking across the way at Pineko, I'm pretty sure they've already activated Nova. Yes, they have on this Master Yi. I also said Master Lee Sin. That doesn't quite work out here. And honestly, I'm down for it,
Oh my
especially when you
goodness.
look at the extra itemization that's slammed on through. So much resistances, but it's not enough. Yudarp is able to continue piloting this A Soul with incredible effectiveness.
And so again, this is the difference. I'm going to keep talking about resources because it's so
Yeah.
dang important in this set. You have one with a lot of gold and one with a lot more health. That's what we just witnessed in that. Pineko still has the HP to be able to econ back up to get the gold underneath and continue to go. Meanwhile, the opposite side of that is you have Yudarp, who has a lot of gold to be able to spend to maintain the strength that they have rolled down into themselves. PJ Mango Pie, on the other hand, is finding themselves down with 9 hit points left, doing a full re-itemization of their board here with the 2-star Riven coming in, the 2-star Corki being there as well. Plus, obviously, as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, they are going to be continuing to re-roll champions on their bench as they go. Now, the unfortunate thing here is they have to win. They have to play not just their best board, the best board. Rammus 2 is going to be a start to that, but this Riven is really what's going to have to pop off.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing that I'm taking a peek at here. And I think the Rammus is a really huge piece here. Like, at only 1-star, Rammus is still good, but wasn't really able to tank as effectively for all the things that you're going to want to see with that. I was going to say with the Riven, but she gets immediately stunned up. So it's tricky to be able to really sort of balance that line. Here, though, we might have a little bit more opportunities here, but it's going to come down to how these little ships come out for that Aurelian Soul, if they're able to find their way into the backline early on. And nope, they will not. Yudarp continues this win streak. He's able to take down PJ Mango Pie, going down with a lot of gold in hand, but that's also one of the risks that you end up taking whenever you go for one of these heavy reroll augments like Pandora's Bench, where you leave so much board strength and so much power on the bench, and you have to see if you're able to find a way to convert it. And if you can't, you're just sort of out of luck.
Let's hop over to Yudarp's board real quickly, if we could, because I want to take a look at exactly where he left these dummies. His crash test dummies are what the stuns come out. And we've talked about the ramp before, and we've talked about positioning in the overall. And this is what I was talking about in the very first game where I said, generally speaking, when you have one unit that's going to be doing all of your tanking, you're going to put them solo, frontline, in the middle. Knowing that that is how a lot of these players are going to be setting up their boards, getting crash test dummies and putting them all the way on the outskirts means that you're going to be catching these.
Wait, Aso, what are you doing? Sorry to cut you off, but you just went right
nope.
into the line of fire there.
And he doesn't care. He didn't care. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. Look at him. He's trolling. That's styling. Aura farming, as the kids would call it.
As we would call it, maybe that's more flying with style, perhaps. But I don't quite know. That is just terrifying to watch a soul just immediately run into the line of fire. That feels like I'm more watching someone running it down in one of my Summoner's Rift games, but we'll have to see exactly which directions it's going to opt for. My goodness, this is just some pretty fun stuff to watch, all things considered, through each of these boards. And it is starting to come down to these moments where these players are hitting really big power spikes off of the fact that they have the Yasuo hexes, they have these fully itemized units, and even in some cases some more interesting artifacts coming in, like the Echo stopwatch. We'll have to see if that's going to be enough to go through this Master Yi that has been tearing through so much of this tournament.
It's very interesting to put the stopwatch on the Karma here, right? Because again, you do 45% additional damage, but it becomes a DOT instead, right? So your burst is gone. I initially liked the concept of it on the LeBlanc. Master Yi doing Master Yi things, by the way.
Oh, yeah,
that's
as he does, yeah.
Very unfortunate. Goodbye for Sarah Grimm. Being the Reaper that he has taken his name from knocks out another one, and Azeel also going down in our bottom 3. Just Bean, by the way, currently is sitting at the lowest health pool remaining, while Yudarp is the only player on a win streak at this point in time. There was all kinds of things I was going to talk about, but if we could flip back to that board for a second, here's your Stargazer for you.
Yeah, I was going to say, thank you. That's very kind. However, they don't have a lot of sacrifices in here, though, and I don't think Bean's going to be able to find them before the end of this game unless, they get some really close fights back after back. I think having the Jin 2 here is a very nice power spike. I think it's a way that you are able to stay in this fight here, and I like the itemization that they've been able to pull out here just to try to find a way to stick into this game for as long as possible. That said, though, we've seen Master Yi we have seen Jin be a threat all through this set, but I also feel like once people really start to figure out how to counter him, some of these other strong compositions, I just think it's starting to get outclassed, and Bean actually goes down to a perfect 0 here, giving us our top 4.
Yeah, absolutely refried at the end of that combat. Unfortunate. It was nice to get to see a Jin on board, Jin 2, And again, this is why at the very start I said LeBlanc is kind of like knockoff Jhin, right? You can see that their casts are very similar in the fact that they have additional sources of that auto attack damage that come out. At this point, it's amusing, but LeBlanc just seems to be better
Mm.
at it than Jhin
Yeah.
is. And so be it. That happens to be the case. Now we have the 2-star Graves on the board, by the way, who also has the largest health bar out of any unit that is on here and is probably doing some of the most damage.
Can we hover factory new really quickly? Because that's actually where you get to see the upgrades that have been purchased by this Graves. And you're already seeing quite a few powerful ones here for survivability, where the shield is going to be doing insane. The nano machines is giving you a great amount of healing on top of everything else. I think this Pinecco board is looking really, really powerful. If I start really nitpicking, I mean, I tell you to move some of these items off of the 1-star Kindred in favor of the Vex 2 that you just hit, but you have so much other stuff here that's really working out for you.
So in order for him to move those units, he would need to hit
Oh, need a
another
remover, you're
kindred. He
right.
has no removers left. I'm sure he would love to re-itemize, taking a look at what all of these units currently have, but you play with the tools that you have, and you are nigh but a toy for the gods. So here we are
I
headed
mean,
into 5-7 with 4 players alive. Pinecco, the lowest health pool, but strong
I
board.
mean, the number of times that I've seen someone on TFT YouTube, someone on TFT Twitter say, "Oh, well, why didn't you just play this?" Oh, I didn't hit it. Like there's a lot
Yeah.
of different ways that you have to kind of consider things at the end of the day, and we'll see if anything interesting comes out for Pinecco from this dragon fight here. If they're able to find another strong item that maybe they would like to fully itemize the
Oh.
graves, or if they want to try to move some things more deeply around.
What did he pick up? The
Looks like the
shockwave?
leeching
Leeching
implant here for
impact.
even
Yeah.
more
Okay.
Omnivamp. My goodness.
Yeah. So if the opportunity arose to be able to re-itemize this Graves, it would be devastating.
Yeah, and I think we're actually starting to see it right now,
There's the
though,
kindred
because, yeah, that's the Kindred Cell. We now have things shifting around here, there, and everywhere.
and a
Perhaps
remover.
Sterix for the Graves?
I think, yeah.
Oh, no, I think this is actually going into the Vex, actually. Interesting. I like this.
Yeah, and then the death blade on the Graves. Correct. That is, I like that play very, very much. The Yi, I think, was already plenty tanky enough. With Oh my god, I'm just watching them heal. Holy cow! Can we pull up the damage on that, please?
Yeah,
Because
I need to see
that's
this.
a level 9 versus level 10 board. First off, I'd like to point out Grim was at level 10 right there and ended up losing that. But this is, again, I said it in the last game and it's still proving true. This is having multiple carries. This is what it's
Yeah.
doing for you.
And again, it's why you have to sort of watch out for what some of these god boons kind of do, because even if you pick and commit to a god that isn't giving you extra items, right? Like one of the gods we haven't seen yet is Kale, and her whole thing is she gives you a lot of item components to play with. Once you get to that final god offering there, you're able to get a lot of components that allows you to itemize a secondary carrier, itemize a tank in a way that in previous TFT sets it's really been frowned upon because you don't really have enough resources to be able to do that effectively. Here, I think you're pretty consistently given enough to try to make some of these calls.
Yeah, it's tight.
Oh,
And
Fiora's
it's
in the
always,
back line.
oh, and the Fiora items that she rolled. This was over before it started. I'm sorry, Win.
Yeah. Oh, Pinecco and Yadarp, though, are fighting against each other and with very low HP. Yadarp's actually going to go down to Pinecco.
Wow.
My goodness. Perfect loss, too. That's going to be enough for a top 3, which is, again, still points that Yadarp is going to need to be able to move on through. Remember, we're going to have that cut off, but it's not going to erase any of the points that players have already gotten. But this is just another testament to how strong some of these boards have gotten, and also how much stronger Master Yi is than I kind of expected, let alone Nova, which is also present on both of these boards.
Yeah, Nova, I believe, is the only composition. The Nova Marauder build is the only composition currently rated as being S tier,
Hmm.
sorry, like S plus tier, I should say.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to agree that this build is correct, especially once you tech in the Fiora as well as the Graves to help out with that. The Master Yi obviously being incredibly important to the entire build. This is the last fight, by the way, and it's not even close.
Yeah, take a look at how quickly this line is melting here. I mean, the mastery that we've seen from Pinecco is usually so strong when it comes to being able to stack up, but here, there just wasn't anything that they were able to do to get
Wow.
stacks on their artifact, and that just is the ball game before it even begins there. But even then, Paneko has to be feeling pretty satisfied with himself.
You ever do one of those things where you accidentally drag one tab into a
Oh
different
no,
tab, and instead
yep.
of it actually putting it in the window, it merges the 2 tabs together? So that's what just happened to me as I tried to pull up some information for you all. So why don't you tell us what ASOL does?
Sure. Well, ASOL's quests are a little bit more simple to kind of follow here. One of the first ones that you usually see in the early game is either the wealth or the trait quest. And usually that's going to be something along the lines of either reach 50 gold or activate 6 unique traits, non unique traits, I should say, at once. And you get either a little bit of extra gold from that or additional emblem based on that, too. So it means that you could see players who spec into ASOL go into some crazier compositions in the end game, provided that they're able to survive the early game in order to get there.
Exactly. Now that emblem is a big thing, and that's really why I'm glad that you mentioned it, because that's what I wanted to talk about with the god, because we have seen trait tree be so devastating. We have seen nova spats be so important to compositions that being able to get through things like that later on as well, kind of have, these pivot points. We've seen a lot of it so far. Having that come in and then watching players' brains go, "Ooh, I can do this now." That's what I want to see. That's one of the reasons I absolutely love the God of Wonders.
It's actually really interesting too because I'm kind of thinking about what what the first patch of this set's going to look like on live servers. And one of the things that I can't help but shake is the fact that unless we see a nerf to this Nova emblem, I'm pretty sure it on its own is going to increase the priority of every single emblem granting trait or entity in this game because of the off chance that you could get it in the first place. So just an interesting thing to try to follow here. I like the bodyguard training that Ollie has picked up here, just because that is going to be a really excellent way to get a little bit of extra natural defensive stats no matter which direction they decide to go for. Meanwhile, Murky Waters looks like they're going to be going for a little bit of extra experience from slamming, which I wouldn't be surprised if this actually becomes a pretty easy way to get to the victor, because at the end of the day, it's a
Correct.
reroll composition, yes, but this allows you to get to level 7 even faster while preserving your gold and letting it be used for rerolls as opposed to just trying to like get a weird mix going on here.
Yeah, and those are the little things that matter in terms of TFT. Again, we talked about the pivots and things like that, but having the foresight behind it as well, right? When you have slam and you have to make a decision early, and it's quite interesting to see them actually opting to go for the jeweled gauntlet slam here rather than trying to save the rod and look more towards the Ginsus, I would say, is probably the most used carry item right now.
Yeah, so many units like to use the Ginsus, but at the end of the day, you kind of want to make sure you're getting that full power from everything that you're doing, right? Like, if you have Slammin', yes, it's nice to try to have some degree of flexibility in order to keep things going, but you also want to see if you can turn your Econ trait into combat power. And in the case of Slammin', that is, well, doing what the name suggests, right? You're slamming completed items on whatever units you can, so you're able to make deeper pulls like that. Let's quickly actually check Just Bean's augment here because I believe that's going to be a worth the wait. It's going to be Nasus here, so already got quite a few. Could be an interesting path forward to get somewhere interesting into the space group, but we'll just keep an eye out on that as we get deeper into the game.
Yeah, worth the wait. Nasus is quite an interesting one.
No
It's a
bonk.
strong enough unit, but there's definitely other things. Yeah, exactly. You want the LeBlanc in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say no bonk, but yeah, no,
Oh,
same
no
same kind
bonk.
of
My
deal.
apologies.
No, no, it works out here, but at the same time, I think worth the wait Nasus is a pretty strong option here, just because if you look at the way that his ability works, and that's just because he gets that huge health steroid, and on top of that as well, that AOE damage in the early game, which I feel like really does a lot of wonders. You're able to get into free natural Nasus, sure, why not? You're able to get into some excellent situations where you can suddenly just deal with a lot of the threats that you would have to usually worry about in the early game a little bit more effectively. And from there, just get that power out sooner here at the end of the day. So I honestly just think it's a pretty solid pickup.
Yeah, it's going to be very fun to watch as it comes through for certain.
Yeah. There's even a world where we could see a Nasus 4 here just because it seems like,
Ooh.
Nasus 3 is going to be active on stage 2 4. So it could be an interesting way to just to stick around, see what kind of comes next. However, at the same time, Space Groove hasn't exactly been something that we've been seeing a lot of folks really tech into today. It's been sort of overshadowed greatly by all the Nova Primordians that have been sort of floating around all over the place.
Yeah, early brawler opener is good flex, right? I would say is a good way to put it. You don't really see brawlers left in a lot of compositions unless it's just kind of left over as the result of the rest of them. It isn't a focus anymore.
Yeah, by the way, it is going to be the wealth quest here, so no emblems
Mm.
just yet. So not going to be as terrifying, perhaps, to deal with. Less people are going to have access to those Nova emblems that we were kind of looking for. But wealth quest is also one of the easier ones to try to go for in this early game, just because you're probably going to hit 50 gold anyway. It's just a question of how soon you want to do that and how much you're willing to give up health wise to, say, for example, avoid leveling up to try to preserve a streak in order to do so, for example. So curious to see exactly how that's going to shake out for folks in some of these initial fights.
Yeah, I like the Ezreal on the backline when you're playing this brawler too, because again, this is the best board
Yeah.
situation, but it's a strong backline unit. You were talking about it very early on, in terms of how it's able to handle the creep rounds as just a 1-star kind of locked in the corner, so you can get that extra econ. But overall, it's just a strong unit to have in your backline, and is actually one that I wouldn't say you can rely on it in the late game, but pushing through the mid, it's still very reliable, and the items that he wants transfers quite easily into those more carry based, like the Kindred in the later game.
Yeah, and Ezreal does infinitely stack, so there's worlds where you can try to mess around with it a little bit. I agree. I think in the late game, it doesn't really matter what one cost build you play. Like they're just going to fall off. But even then, as you said, there are excellent ways to sort of pivot away from that. There are other snipers that make great use out of the items. Kindred, I mean, we're calling out other folks that use Ginsus here again, but both Kindred and the Zaya, they both are just excellent users of these options no matter which way it's sliced. And it actually seems like the Exalted Adventure is picked up for Twisted Fate, Worth the Wait, excuse me, was picked up on this board here, which makes me want to double check Stargazer one more time, see what our final option is going to be if we can hover that super quick.
If we could hover that super quick, if we could look at Stargazer super quick.
Yeah. No worries. It's going to be the sacrifice one again, which isn't, I think, the craziest option here at the end of the day, but still can do some pretty good work as long as you're able to activate it a bit earlier.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch, to say the least. Whether or not the actual sacrifices come out. Unfortunately, the last time we saw it and we really took a look, there was not a whole lot of them.
Hmm.
TF's rolling a whole lot of sixes right now. They're really playing with our heart, and then it rolled the 7, but a little late after that. So unfortunately, no more Protroid memes coming this time around. But it is going to be one to pay attention to, like you were saying before, because of the Stargazer, but again, because the Worth the Wait is going to be in there, they're going to be able to hit 3-star. We have seen the backline Twisted Fate do a significant amount of work. This is Epoch, I believe, in the hands of
Yeah.
James Harden here as well. So also going to be able to be stacking some experience with that while also playing the Primordial. So they're going to have the econ that comes with that too.
Yeah, and James Harden, I mean, we're just going from one level up trait to the other, right? That is not calculate loss. I don't know why I'm forgetting the name of knowledge, some kind. Oh my goodness! I have been casting and talking about the augment trait really quick. If we could just hover over the augment really quickly here. Yeah,
Patient study, sorry. I
I
called it
have no
epoch.
idea why
Yeah.
I am struggling so much with augments today. It could be the fact that I've been talking about TFT for far too long today, so I'll just chalk it up to that and we'll move on and just ignore the little brain fart that we just experienced. But independent of that, though, it's just showing how more players this game appear to be indexing more towards those late game kind of carries, or at the very least, trying to find ways to counteract their early game reroll here. Because whenever you're playing Primordial, it's important to remember that it's okay if you don't stick around at level 4 or 5, because you're just naturally going to be getting more one cost units as the game goes on, and that could be a pretty nice window into getting those final Primordial units while you actually roll for something, slightly more important, be it that Belveth, be it you try to go for the full core where you're also trying to play a Kali. There's options that you have to work with.
Yeah, and it's honestly at this point, it's also quite interesting that they were still running with the Talon on their board there as well. So really just running the low cost all the way through here. It looks like we are leaning into the Nasus 4 possibility this time around. So I love that for us as Bean continues on the win streak that she's just oh so known for at this point.
Yeah. Again, game two, we saw that in a force. This time around, though, I mean, last game, though, in game three, we did see it begin to struggle a little bit as it went deeper and deeper on. Maybe Prismatics will be another way to keep it going, but I gotta tell you, this can get really scary really fast.
New recruit is an interesting one with Space Groove being up there
Hmm.
as a trait that's already being played. Lucky Gloves is always nice because you're going to have good items. But again, do you already have a set of gloves on board? Do you already have everything else? Okay, prismatic ticket. Done. Click it.
Do you click Prismatic Ticket, though? Because you already have so many free Nasipal coming through.
They are
Looks like
going
it is going to be
gloves.
Lucky Gloves. I mean, I don't know. I think I do kind of agree here. I think Prismatic Ticket would have also been very strong here, just because there is a world where this becomes that knock-up Samira board that we've sort of seen
Mm-hmm.
folks talk about a little bit, where they just re-roll Samira plus Orn plus, I don't want to say Fizz, but like another knock-up unit that's not coming to me right now, and then from there they're able
Nami.
to yeah, I think so. And then from there, you are able to get quite a bit of power out. But again, it seems like they're also looking at other players looking to contest a tiny little bit. So maybe it's best to sort of stick away as best you can.
Yeah, I mean, it's a situation where yes, you're going to hit the 4-star Nasus already, like that's just guaranteed. But at the same time, you're also still need to hit the backline to go with it, right? And you want to be able to 3-star those, and then you're going to want some assistance on it as well. This Ezreal did quite a bit, considering it's a one-item Ezreal fighting into that tank. But that is again when you don't have the AOE damage, you're only going to be hitting that one unit, and that's one of the flaws of a lot of these backline carries as we see 6 brawler being played right now. Apparently, I'm just going to eat my words when I said this isn't something that you really focus on, but perhaps it is. Perhaps it's just something that it's a build that nobody has really focused on yet, but it could turn out to be quite good. This could simply be something that Ollie knows that we don't.
I mean, I think there's more stuff to play around here with the Urgot. I mean, I joked about this on my socials the other day because I was able to create an apocalypse tank where I put Urgot on my board. I got the um, a golden dragon augment that gives you the Mogul's Mail that gives you an extra team slice slot. So I had an
Ooh.
Urgot that costs 3 units to play after activating Mecha that I then put on the Radiant artifact that causes your unit to ascend. So there's a world where it works. Granted, I just described a lot of steps in order to do that I don't think Ollie's anywhere close to doing here. But again, like Brawler also scales a little bit differently here, right? Like it's all about that stacking percent based HP, and you can get some pretty interesting ins and outs for that here. By the way, this is
Ooh.
one of the more calm Aurelian Soul quests that you could see, which is just the next time you start up a champion, gain 10 gold. This to me is something I pick almost all the time when I see it, just because it's easy just to hold on to a couple
Mhm.
of random one costs you find in your shop and just say, okay, I'll find the third one, I'll start up and then sell it immediately for 13 gold, right? It just there's not a lot you have to think about here.
We already have worth the weights on the board, right? And we have primordial being played, so they don't even have to hold the one costs. It's gonna come to them anyways. So yeah, I fully understand why this is being selected by so many people, and quite frankly, you don't need to commit. We actually do have 5 players committed to gods, 4 already over to the Soraka. So quite interesting to have the early ones, considering how kind of blasé what we've had coming out has been.
I mean, at the same time, too, like Blase is okay, right? Like being able to get the guaranteed items quickly as opposed to waiting for the benefits of Aurelion Soul, I think makes a lot of sense. I will say that I'm not surprised that of all the players that have committed to Aurelion Soul, it's Pineko, right? Like Pineko likes looking for these kinds of really hard commits, these late game focused builds. So even though they're losing a bit of HP, not as scary as last game, but still, more than I think most players would like to lose at this stage. They have quite a few options here to get out of it once they hit the late game mark.
Yeah, I think it's a very good place to find themselves in at this point in time. Amusingly, it is actually sure this is the Wendy's that find themselves at the very, very, very bottom of everything here, with Bean at the very top.
Oh, but
Um,
we just saw really quickly. First of all, that's a Nova emblem, scary. We also
uh-huh,
see a Graves already active for Enki here. So this is
huge.
another thing we need to watch out for. When you find Graves that is able to start the clock on upgrading him faster and faster and faster. Because of all of that and the amount of aggression that we've seen them play with Hustler in their augment, I wouldn't be surprised this becomes an incredibly strong unit in the late game, provided A, they're able to get the itemization, and B, they're able to survive long enough in order to get some of these bonuses out there.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how this stat goes. The big thing, though, is the good bonuses from Graves cost gold. So you need to maintain your econ around it as well. Now, that's fantastic when you take a look at the augments that they've chosen. So there is a lot of possibility here. But as you said, they need to survive long enough.
Oh, and they did far better in this fight than I kind of predicted. I thought it was going to be a pretty bad loss, but Graves got a couple of good shots off here, there, and everywhere. For now, though, it is just going to be a question of how long they can hold off, because they are in the bottom half of the lobby, but among friends is what I will say, right? James Harden and Pinecco, both very close in damage numbers, with Sir, this is a Wendy's, at the very bottom of the pack here at 34 HP, and a Dream, of course.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a lot, and yet not, right?
Yeah.
It seems like there's a big gap, but we've seen just how easily the HP totals can turn once the pivots come about. So the question is, are these pivots going to come about? When is it going to be soon enough? Are we finally going to have the ultimate folly of not spending all of your gold because you believe you can live one more round and then you lose by a single unit? Moreover, look at the number of items sitting on benches here. Umbreon has a ton of components to be used and needs to get these out in the correct order on the correct units, but they seem uncommitted to a final build. It looks like they're leaning towards Nova. They do have 3 instead of 2, but Bastion is going to do a lot for keeping them alive. So I believe we're looking at Nova Bastion, and they're just waiting.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what these final options are going to be. I think the way they're sitting here, they're going to wait to see what the final augment is just to get that decision made at the end of the day and figure out where to best go. To be fair, I also think they picked a few options here that help minimize the fact that they're not slamming items. Particularly, I'm just looking directly at Ornn while I say that, because he's able to print out additional item to kind of help you go a little bit longer. And they also have some pretty okay slams on their Aatrox as well. Not where I'd expect to see them at the end of the day, but it's still item power nevertheless.
Yeah, so let's see how they manage to pull through in the end here. This is a heck of a board to try and do much against, though.
And yet, and yet they have. And yet
yeah,
they have.
that and TF, we said that the 3-star TF is something to watch for. It's not, again, it's not your end game, but it's still very strong.
Hey, it works out here, though, at the end of the day, and it seems like we're going to calm the lobby down a little bit by throwing in a silver augment as players are beginning to level to 8 and find some of these big pickups here. I think Pinecco is probably going for that mecha roll down here. At least I assume, because we saw the Urgot slam, but instead it seems like the flavor of the day goes back to the Master Yi. I didn't even see what order the items are for him, but the fact that you have the target lock optics is huge. That is exactly what you want to find on your Master Yi here. I'm very curious to see if this means that they're going to try to tech in for Psionic at this stage to try to get the additional bonus power on that item, or if they'd rather just get as much utility as possible all around the Rift.
From what we've been seeing, they tend to go a lot of the utility, right? We haven't really seen a huge Psionic focus thus far. I'd love to. It just doesn't seem to be the path that these players are taking, and I don't know if that's a knowledge thing, or if it's a comfort thing, or simply it's not a strong thing. I don't know this game at this point in this set as well as most of these players do, particularly when we're talking about somebody like Pinecco.
Yeah, I do have to say, though, like, this is looking like a very strong end state here where, I mean, I think I've watched Master Yi more in the past 3 hours than I have throughout the past 2 weeks of playing the PBE or whatever. It is
Agreed.
incredible to see how much these players are really prioritizing him as a way to stabilize, as just a strong unit in general, even if they don't have the desire to go psionic. And you're seeing that all over the place here, where he's a premier Nova spat holder. Players are just looking to hold on to him where possible to deny. Where I think between Sir, this is Wendy's holding on to 5 Master Yi's, and as we already said, Paneko holding on to 3 as well, I'm pretty sure this just locks the rest of the lobby out of Master Yi.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that you can really try to do when you get into rolling down for forecasts, right? There's only so many in the pool. So if you can hit enough early enough, everybody has to wait for you to die or change their mind and go for something different. So very interesting to see the early focused on it. But I mean, Wendy's has 0 gold, absolutely nothing left. So if they are not stabilizing off of this roll down, they are in a significant amount of trouble. And the Yi is doing everything that they can. Um, and it's going to actually be enough this time as well, with the help of the Belveth and the Kindred as well. And of course, how could you not acknowledge Sir Thomas of Kench?
I mean, Sir Thomas of Kent is doing a lot, but I gotta call it out again. This is 4 Marauder active. This is 5 Nova active. This is so many resistances coming on through from Master E being the user of the Nova Strike. I'm not exactly quite sure how the titles work here at the end of the day. This, by the way, is a new boon that I haven't seen from Aurelion Sol yet. After 15 rolls, gain 2 component anvils. I like that. I think it's something that a lot of these players would have liked to see before their huge stage 4-2 roll downs, but works out pretty cleanly here. Sir, this is Wendy's was also just offered a Sona as well, which that could be a really interesting way to further buff up that Master Yi. Remember, those command mods are another thing that can serve as a force multiplier as that 4th item slot on one of these units. So will be interesting to see if that's the direction that they decide to go down. Oh no,
Just
they went to
kind of,
Fiora for Marauders. Makes sense.
yeah, there it is. I was about to say, just kind of watching to see what the ultimate decision here was made, and then yeah, the Fiora comes in. Fiora, I mean, we've said this name far too many times and talked about the unit enough at this point, I believe, that everybody probably fully understands that she's pretty dang good.
Yeah.
There's
Again, at
not
the
a
very
whole lot
least,
else to say.
it means that Sir the Wendy's can ignore the 31 HP. They know that they're going to have a bit more time in order to more properly stack back up to try to recover HP. It's just going to be a question of if you can do that against Paneko, the other Master Yi player in this lobby, who I would say I'm a little bit more scared of on the back of that Radiant item, but that could just be me undervaluing the Nova emblem yet again. My goodness, this is insane.
Yeah, Nova. Enough
Nova.
said, right?
Okay, yeah, Nova.
Nova, it's, I believe it's won every game that we've seen so far. If not,
Yeah.
it has been in the top of every game without a doubt. And then here we have a little bit of soup. We have Dark Lady Doomer, Factory New Redeemer, all individual traits being played here. But I mean, Enki is showing exactly why, like you said, this set simply is not that soupy.
Yeah, no, there's like not as much you can kind of do here. You don't have those same kind of 5 cost tanks. And at the end of the day, you sort of end up in awkward situations like this, particularly if you're not quite able to get your econ sort of sorted at the right time, where, yeah, you have some 5 costs in here, but you don't have enough sort of in the pool or enough that you can kind of access to be able to 2-star them effectively to be able to get that power out as quickly as you can. One thing I want to call out that's been pretty important to remember here is as we move away from lore and legends, you don't have the guaranteed unit from unlocking, say, a 4 cost or a 5 cost anymore, right? So it's hard to kind of even tech into them in the first place. And that can lead to some really unfortunate scenarios where, yes, you managed to find your 2-star 4 cost new tank. It's doing a lot here, but it's sort of just by itself in an ocean surrounded by all these other units here, and with a Zaya that is just continuing to stack. So again, you're already seeing that Zaya bypass that front line, manage to kill the Graves before anything else goes down. And that just means Enki is going to go down as well.
Everybody making their last selections here. Paneko, the only person, the only player dedicating to ASOL here, is very interesting. So everybody else opting for the personal HP, for the additional tank items for their units. Meanwhile, Asol, I mean, let's look at what Paneco's getting from this. Is it even phenomenal?
I mean, you have to look at the boom by hovering over the augment really quickly, so we'll take a look at it there. But the other thing to remember here is that, yeah, you pick one of free quests, and Peneko reading the writing on the wall just says, listen, I can't wait for my bonus here. I have to take the rinky-dink one that you get at the very beginning, which is just give me some stats, please. I need a way out of this. And to be fair, that can be enough, right? Like that could give you enough in order to maybe survive a little bit longer, turn your seventh place into a six, and do something to stay alive. Which remember, this is still a tournament, and Peneko is still looking for ways to fight into and maintain the spot they have in the top eight. Finishing in seventh place here is a really rough thing to come back from.
Yeah, nothing in this is going to be super easy, to say the least. The lobby is not as close as I thought it was going to be when I was talking about, you know, oh, HP pools can come and go kind of thing, because the top players have really just been able to hold on. Yes, just Bean has lost a little bit here, but it's not all that significant. Ollie is still sitting up there doing quite well for themselves. And, you know, Paneko is struggling. I mean, we see Ollie here obviously going to be going down in this combat, but again, it's...
No, I agree. And like, you also are starting to see a pretty huge disparity open up too, right? Where, you know, most players are here sitting below 30 HP. Then you look at these huge jumps coming in for first and second place, 89 and 63 HP respectively. So it is kind of insane to see how this is coming. But also, that being said too, some of these players who have spent this amount of health, they're now looking for strong ways to cash out, to find these advantages here. And I think Murky has some interesting options here. I haven't actually seen too much of the Alawi anima items, so I'm curious to see how effective that's going to be in some of these combats. But I don't know. I look around and I see what Just Bean, for example, is putting in, and being only 2 away from that Nasus 3 and having a pretty statted out space group board. I don't know. I'm not sure if there's too much that can stand up to this.
Yeah, this is quite a situation, but obviously the backlines are the difference maker here, as Just Bean does ultimately go down to Murky in this combat. And if you could please pull up the damage charts from that, I want to show just what was being done by everybody. Take a look at the Aurora damage there. Take a look at the Diana, as well as even the Alawi. The Alawi dealing a good amount of true damage, which is, again, like we said from the last game, how you ultimately burn through the tanks. And then on the losing side, it was a single carry from the Nami again. So these multiple sources of damage seem to be the most important thing going on here, even though this Diana is built incredibly differently from what we saw the first time. The first time that we saw a 3-star Diana on the board that was fully itemized, it was incredibly aggressive. It was a Ginso BT in their hands instead of the defensive items that we have this time around. So very interesting to see players playing the same units in different ways, just to maximize their board potential.
Yeah, I would also say too, I think it also comes down to, again, what Arbiter is. There's so many little things to kind of watch out for that could be impacting best in slot itemization here that comes in for all of these units here. But for now, I agree. Like, Murky is in a fantastic situation here. They have a lot of opportunities to move on through, and they even have, well, maybe not as much HP as they'd like to be able to survive. They have enough to at least like be comfortable in a few of these fights, right? Like if they go into Bean, Ollie, whoever, Bean, by the way, just hitting their 4-star Nasus, I think, that is going to be very difficult to overcome. But at the same time, too, you have other players that are looking to make some pretty big hits as well. Just look at Peneko here, who is now sitting at 5 HP, is doing everything they can to avoid the 7th place. And I think the Jin 2 is a pretty way to go about it, but take a look at the top of their pool. They can go against Just Bean at the very top of the lobby, which I'm not quite sure if this board can stand up to that.
No, they simply amusingly lack the front line. You itemized a Riven, that's fantastic for you, but you have no 3 stars. Your 2 stars aren't that strong. Again, when compared to the rest of the lobby of what's going on.
You found the backline? No.
No, the Aurora is just chewing through people right now, and there's nowhere near enough consistent damage to be able to take out this Alawi. It simply was not going to happen, let alone the itemized Diana. Unfortunate for Peneko. We love you, Peneko. Don't
Mhm.
get us wrong. We do enjoy you as an individual. Unfortunately, your gameplay in this semi was just not enough, so you are going to go down. And it looks like
Oh,
Mr.
Riptide
James
fight.
Harden
Oh,
is going to be joining you.
I mean, I was going to call it out there, but there's still a world, depending on how close that James Harden fight went, that Pinecco could have finished in 6 and completely swapped around their final position with James. But at the same time, though, it just wasn't enough here at the end of the day. Pinecco's going to end out in 7. James Harden breathes a sigh of relief here at 6th place. In the meantime, I want to also look at Ollie here too, because I believe that little graphic that we just saw shows that Stargazer is now fully online, has fully
Hmm.
sacrificed up. We now have that bonus attack speed and health that all of these Stargazer units are really going to be making excellent use of. I kind of want to see items moved over at this stage too, like say Nunu makes more use out of those items than Tom Kench at this stage, but neither here nor there. You only got a little bit of time in these rounds. It's okay.
So Nunu is one of these 4-cost frontliners that we've talked about, right? And the
Mhm.
importance of hitting them. Um, Walk me through the unit as a whole because it's massive.
I mean, right now, yes, just because you have the additional bonus health from Stargazer. For Nunu, though, Nunu is the stun tank of this set, right? Where usually every set you have one unit that is designed to do a big AoE stun that's able to fully disrupt things. I'm going to cut myself off a little bit because I was doing more than expected. Not enough for Ollie to go down, but still very, very strong, very, very scary. But for Nunu as a whole, to focus back in on it, you have a really big amount of stuns here. You have a lot of units that synergize nicely with it. It's why that one sniper comp that I was talking about earlier likes to try to run Nunu combined alongside the Samira, just because that's a knockup. That's going to mean she's entering the groove. That's going to mean she does free damage. All of it works together really nicely in tandem to get things going. The problem here, though, is that I'm looking at a 5-round boss streak right now. I'm not quite sure if there's enough here in order for Ollie to really be able to stick around much longer.
Yeah, this is one life without a doubt. At this point in time, you have
Oh, but it's
50
also
gold
very
here.
close. Hold on. Shut up.
Make
We're
make the
so
roll down.
close, actually,
You got to
to
buy
a
that karma. You
Zaya
need that
3.
karma too. No, oh, I think that karma was an absolute must buy, even though you are looking for the Zaya 3
I think they
here.
rolled over one.
Thinning the pool a little bit.
That's
There's
another
okay, they bought the one. You're still 2 away. Unfortunately, you're not going to be picking
one
up the
away. There's
karma
an emblem
going
on the
on
bench.
here. You are correct. They do have it duped. They need to hit 3, 2.
Uh,
They
oh, and they even
end
had
up
more
not
gold in the
hitting. They
bench. Do you
had
keep
more.
rolling just to see if you
Oh,
would have found it in your alternate here? That's 1. That's
they
3.
would
Yep,
have.
it's there.
Yeah. But he
I
needs
don't
to
think they
live.
survived, though. That's always a heartbreaker here. You just had a little bit more time. Maybe you could have survived. I will say Zaya can do some weird cleanup here, take out more units than you
No,
expect, but there's no world here where I think she can take out
I don't.
this many units.
She almost looked like she was doing negative damage to these tanks in the overall. That Alawi is still basically full health. Like, it was good itemization. That's an APM difference, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
Just actions per minute were not high enough that time around. We have seen wonderful things happen in roll downs already today. There was bound to be bad luck in one of them, considering we already had that 3-star Vex in game number 2, which was phenomenal. And I think the players, just like you and I are probably at this point as well, feeling some of the burn that comes from playing this many games in a row at this high strength. Sure, it's very easy to sit down and play 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games of TFT in a row and be like, yeah, okay, that was fun, and then go on with your day. It's very different in the competitive format where you feel the stress of every single decision that you're making. Also, that is a massive dummy.
Yeah, I gotta say that is really, really
Not a lot
fun.
of health.
I think that's the electric dummy that comes on in that serves as a almost like a Tesla coil, honestly, that moves on in, gets additional damage here, there, everywhere. But also, there's just not enough here. Umbreon's gonna go down. We get to watch another Pengu Garen cutscene. Is gonna be
That's
rough to
murky.
see. Oh, it's Murky. Excuse me.
No,
I looked
Umbreon, you were
before.
right. It is
Oh,
Umbreon going down. Murky's low.
okay.
No,
Sorry, I got a little bamboozled myself
you
there, kind of looking at
you
some of
got
the things
cated.
coming through. I know, but it happens. But hey, we still work through. We're still okay at the end of the day. Murky, though, I do want to call this that because something that you've been talking about quite a bit has really been holding on very nicely, right? And this is one of the scary things that you sort of have when talking about anima, where previously it was very risky in order to get some of these cash outs. I think I did a lot of research compared to the previous item cash out set being Chembaron from way back. I say way back in the day, like I'm old. Wow. But you see like a lot of these sort of differences coming up here, and it is much more consistent now. It is much more effective. And I think because of that, we are now seeing these situations where they're able to outscale Beam, even though they were able to hit, say, for example, the 4-star 1 cost. And it's not going to be enough, though, actually. They're going to go down. I was so confident watching the Aurora manage to get that quick little KO on that backline, but there's just too much on the other side of our screen to really be able to get away from it.
Hilariously, Kate, if you could pull the damage up, please, from that one. The Blitz had rolled 2 full offensive items and did 10,000 damage with a GS and BT.
I mean, that's what Blitzcrank is supposed to do, though, right? Like, I was talking about how you don't really have a dedicated tank right now on the 5 class level. You have 2 pseudo tanks, one being the Shen, who really wants to build attack speed, weirdly enough, and the other being the Blitzcrank, who you kind of want to itemize like last set's set at the end of the day, where you're able to get a lot of additional power on here and or to fire off all those little lightning bolts that he kind of does after he reses back from the ult. So I mean, you're talking about being a cat person, so I think you're pretty happy to watch the Blitzcrank go down here. But at the end of the day, there is just so much to overcome here when you're playing Nova, and I think if previous games are a guide, I think Sir This Is Wendy's is going to live up to their name and just prevent Bean from moving on.
Let's flip over to Bean's board and take a look to see what she's dealing with, or sorry, working with here, because, I mean, yeah, you've got the Soraka's Boon here. It's not all that important. The 4-cost Nasus, or sorry, 4-star Nasus is going to be phenomenal for you. But taking a look at this backline, you only have the 1-star Nasus, or sorry, the 1-star Shen supporting you here. You only have the 1-star Jin on your board. You've got the 2-star Samira who's running with gloves. You at least have a 2-star Nami, but really that kind of persistent damage, the persistent interruptions that we're seeing coming out of the opposing team here from Wendy's is a difference maker. There is still one Reforger on the board that could be used, but I don't feel like itemization is an issue here. It simply is she hasn't hit.
On top of that too, like this is 6 Namis to be clear, right? There's another 2-star Nami on the bench, so like we could kind of see Bean go for the same strategy they had last time around, where it's like, okay, let's leverage my health pool to see if I can find any other strong advantages here. And finding additional Namis like that, just random one-off in the shop, is going to be a great way to do that. But at the same time, though,
what do you sell?
I'm not sure if you have enough HP or enough time to do that, especially when the rest of your board just isn't that stellar right now.
Yeah. So Bean is going to have to win this combat, the PBE combat here, pick the items up, get the gold that comes out of this, buy the Nami, and then manage to buy the Nami. Buy the Nami.
You got it.
Buy the Nami.
Not gonna buy it. Ooh.
What is she looking for then? I mean, there's a bunch of pairs. There's a Jin pair and a Shen pair that she's sitting on, right? Obviously wants to hit at least one of those, and it's probably what they're looking for. There's a Morgana that would give her more pair. Not looking to pick that up either. Namis have been sold. The rolls continue downwards. Decisions are being made. Looking for the Shen and the Jin. One of them, pick your poison. They're opting not to sell either of them here. They're going to be running with the 1-stars. They should still have one more life. It's only 7-1 with 40 HP here. But that was your gold moment. You don't have significantly more to roll down with after this.
I mean, what I will say is that it's you're level 9. You have to kind of make a decision of, do I really want to take the risk of going for the 3-star 4 cost, or do I want to try to find the 2-star 5 cost? It's a bit of a safer stabilization option. And I don't even really necessarily mind that they decide to go for the 2-star 5 cost. It just hurts that they weren't able to find anything off of that. And now Wendy's is just looking at this going, Oh, you're trying to find Jin? Let me take Jin out of the pool for you. Oh,
I
like you're
can
running
read your
Blitzcrank? I'm going to take this
every
one for
thought.
psychic damage, right? Like, I don't really think there's a world where we see Just Bean, for example, hit a Blitzcrank free. But, Wendy's is just taking that off the table before consideration just because they have so much gold, so much health to work with, right? They can make these decisions with this kind of foresight.
Wendy's taking it off the table broke me.
Hey, listen, let me tell you,
I just I
Sir,
just
this is the
pictured you
Wendy's had 4 gold earlier, and I was so close to making a 4 for 4 joke.
poor
You have
poor joke.
no
I know.
idea how
I
much
left it
restraint I
alone
showed.
too. Oh jeez.
Oh,
I
we
just
really do
you
have one brain cell. That's not fair.
you just said like taking it off the table, and I just imagine somebody sitting in a Wendy's on their laptop playing a game of TFT, and the laptop just happens to be on one of the trays, like the serving trays, and they just walk up and they go, "Are you done with that?" and pick up your laptop and walk away. It's like, no.
Well, I
That's how
think
this
that's
game feels.
exactly.
Like Bean had a good thing going, and they had their table bust prematurely. As Sir, this is a Wendy's walks away with the victory. No, I'll tell you what, we have seen more shinies come out of the packs in TFT today than we have seen brain cells come out of my mouth ever since we have started this. TFT is a fantastic time. Shout out to Setsuna in the chat. I see you, brother. I love you, brother. Hey, as we are rolling into this last one around, I unfortunately have gone so far as to not even notice what gods we have.
And it's also unfortunate too because I think there's currently a bug on the PBE where you're unable to look at it from the hover. So, oops, that's gonna be a little rough. We'll be pleasantly surprised in a little bit, unless we want to really quickly bug someone during this live game to figure out what's happening here. By the way, if we could go back to Suzuki, they just have a gold dupe already, so we'll keep an eye on that. It's been something that some players I feel like have been holding on to a little bit too greedily in this game, but if there was ever a time to greed, it's gonna be the last game of the day.
Yeah, this is the time to really prove all of the little things that we've talked about in terms of the econ being incredibly strong and important in this. And starting right here, right now, we are in silver tier augments, which means we're not getting any kind of absolutely crazy things. First time that we've seen the hero augment for the Aatrox there. I doubt it'll be clicked.
I mean, I think
AFK
it's
is, yep.
I think it was more likely than some of the other ones that we've seen because of the strength of Nova, but that could also be seen as a detractor because of how many people we'd anticipate to play Nova as well. So take all that with a grain of salt. I think the other way of looking at it all too is the fact that because we're starting with silver in this final lobby, that means we're going to see less emblems all told, which means we're going to see less chances for these crazy spikes that we've kind of seen all through the day of folks managing to high roll that Nova emblem and go absolutely nuts off of it.
Yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting time. But I mean, you say so many people have been playing Nova, and we've seen so many people play Nova. But at the same time, it's always in the top. So it's not even like a hold hands to eighth situation,
Oh
right?
no, no.
So if you
Yeah.
can be the first one to hit it and to hit it the strongest, it can be incredibly good. But I do agree with avoiding it this time around, not going for it, because this is the final match. This is the culminative placements where you really need the points. And in the terms of points, there is only a 5-point spread between first and last, with a tie in first for at 28 points and a tie in third, fourth at 27 points. So half of this lobby are within 1 point of one another. So every single placement matters.
And I will say, we talk about having one brain cell. We have to remember that Kate also has to be involved in the usage and custody of that brain cell because we have to hand it over to her every now and then just to do the math on some of these breakpoints, just to make sure we can always call out who is closest to winning on some of these fights as this game goes longer and longer. So do keep an eye out. Do remember that as we start going deeper and deeper into Game 5. For now, though, like I said, looking around, this is pretty akin to what we've been seeing previously, albeit with, again, a lot less resources to start. When Dixie has gone for the Primordium here, pretty solid option here when you're in a lower resource lobby. You're able to get a bunch more units early on, able to get some early natural gold generation. That's going to be pretty good. Meanwhile, over there for Cat GM, I think honestly, just any time that you're able to play Timebreaker is going to be a good time, right? You're able to get either the experience that's able to push you into those later level fasters, or get the rerolls to be able to stabilize early on, or hell, you save those two in order to help your level 8 roll down when you get there eventually.
Not here for a good time, just here for a time breaker time. something along those. I don't know. I think they're
We'll
they're both
workshop
a
that.
good
We'll come
time.
back later in the set for that.
It's not. No, set's not in this one.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that was last set.
Last set headset?
Set. Yeah,
What set was that?
this one.
This set has set.
No, this set is set. This
Oh,
this
this
set
set
is
is
this set.
set, and Blitzcrank is set, but not set, which was in last set.
No, it's like set from last set in this set is Blitz
Oh,
set.
I see. Okay, that makes more sense to me. Thank you. Thank you for setting all that in stone.
It's all set up from the beginning. Thank you, TFT, for that. Mort Dog, look, what have you done? Anyways,
You're
as
tearing
we
your
roll through
commentators
this,
apart.
so one of the very early comps that came out with the PBE that we haven't seen because it's just not as strong as it used to be. Or sorry, it's not as strong as people thought it was, I should say, is Darkstar. And I think it's really cool, and I really wish they'd buff it.
I mean, I think it's one of those things that we should see eventually. And oh, look, Aurelian Soul is back here, and it is going to be the trait quest, so we couldn't quite escape from all the traits happening here. I'm really curious to look at the distribution
They're all
across all players. Oh, look at that!
What? What?
I think that's everyone
Bean?
except Bean hasn't picked yet.
Bean? Bean.
No,
Bean!
looks like Bean wants it. Yeah.
Bean.
Wow. That is really interesting here. And I want to see how this kind of shakes out. Because granted, this is a really risky option. I think this actually makes more sense for Bean, though, because they were able to get the Psionic emblem here, which actually, if you hover the emblem quickly, this gives more stats, I think, than any other emblem in the game. And that's purely because you're getting the ability to also slam a psionic item on yourself with the additional bonus stats as well. So it gets pretty nutty pretty fast. And if we actually hover over psionic here as well, the trait itself, we can take a look at what items are planned. And let me tell you, having the tank psionic first and the sympathetic implant on the back line, I think you can hit a very nutty board here if you're Bean. And I would be surprised if we're going to see some kind of variation of that Victor Misfortune reroll.
Yeah, I think exactly. The Victor MF is what I was looking at for that as well, and I would love to see how this plays through. Bean, we already know, is an incredibly strong player in the first place, let alone when you kind of filter their board into this beautiful column. So I really hope that she has a good time with this. I hope it's a board that she's familiar with too.
Yeah, and I will say, I think Bean has been just comfortable, right? Like, I don't think we've seen too many situations where it seems like she doesn't know what her options are, where it seems like she's kind of like hemming and hawing a little bit over what the best course of action is in the first place. And also, too, gets bailed out, but not bailed out, like, but gets a really nice drop in the form of this early Victor drop. And now all of a sudden, this is basically, I think, the best Psionic board you could possibly have at stage 2-6. 4 units in, you already have the quote-unquote radiant versions of these psionic items, and they get pretty insane pretty fast here. Can we actually hover over the tank one first just to get really an idea of what these upgrades kind of do? Where if we look at that psionic item, what it's going to be doing now is that it's now stronger than, I think, any kind of completed item that you'd find, but only on psionic units, right? Like, there's more kind of stuff that's required to really get it working. And it means that they're just going to be running away with a lot of these early fights. There's not much that could stand up to this.
No, and that's the really early advantage of just kind of having items in the first place. So when it ends up actually being a trait that gives you the items, it means that you're not actually investing anything into them, right? So it's the same thing with the primordial, where you get the additional units early on. You're not actually investing gold or HP into getting these units, which makes it beneficial in its own right. The only difference being what you get out of primordial is technically permanent because you always have the gold, right? If you don't use it. Meanwhile, with psionic, as soon as you pull it out, your items are gone. So pros and cons.
Yeah, at the same time though, like, if we're talking about preserving HP, I really think that Psionic is the winner here, just because it is able to get you closer to a 3-item tank or a 3-item carry faster. And as a result, you can do a lot with that, especially when you consider just how much of a logarithmic scale that TFT units have when it comes to their power relative to how many items that you have, where you get 3, that's an enormous spike, right? Like, you have all these options sort of at your disposal here. I think that's a really interesting thing to watch and call out. Just like how I want to call out the fact that Grimm has also picked up another emblem. Oh yeah, sorry, it's going around all over the place. Kate can't follow it fast enough. You're getting all these shepherd emblems coming out back forth, this way, that way, or whatever, and that means we're gonna have even more support in the Bia and Bayan sort of that we find here.
Yeah, B and Bayan obviously something we've seen a lot and talked a lot about at this point, but very, very useful to have because it's frontline, which is again kind of the topic I have no choice but to keep coming back to because it's a major weakness in this set is just not that set, this set. It's just not
Oh,
having that frontline tank, right? So being able to play the shepherd, get it in addition, constantly make them stronger is very good where you end up kind of with what's been coined like the shepherd's pie build along, your kind of 5-star soup. You have the shepherd's pie instead. That's where we are with this one. Um, Honestly,
like,
though, I want to see meeples for the same reason.
hey, I get it. Also, to be fair, I haven't had dinner yet, so please stop naming comps after food. I'm begging you. Like it's too much for me to be able to handle. But beyond that, though, I do kind of agree at the end of the day here, right? Like there's a lot of really strong options here that are getting things going. I would also say an early Corky could be the meeple cure that you've been looking for here. So we'll find out if that's going to be enough at the end of the day. But I think it should be a strong enough piece of consideration here to try to shift things around.
I need there to be a meeple brawler comp, so you can
Mhm.
call it meep and potatoes.
I love that.
Meep and potato.
That's beautiful. So, I'm sorry. I really don't want to take things back into the game, but Just Bean is now
Please do.
fighting Cat, and we're going to see more of these adaptations that we've been sort of looking for with this board. And let me tell you, Psionic is just doing an incredible amount of work here at this point.
Yeah, we need to take a look at the items here. Go so if we could just stay with this, the victor, if we could get a click on that and take a look at the second. This is the second psionic item that's coming in here. Is that staff. If you could hover over that, please, Kate. Sorry, the implant, not the staff. Look at the additional mana
Mhm.
is insane. And again, because you have the 4 psionic in, you get the second ability based on it too. 20% of your ability damage as true damage. Victor's already strong. Victor
Yep.
already does a good amount of ability damage. Now you're dealing 20% of it as true. That's
Yeah.
insane. Guess
I mean,
what?
we've
That applies
seen
to the MF as well.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen what happens here where you have all these crazy tank builds here that, as you said, are a little bit weaker. There's less options here, but if you're dealing true damage on top of that, well, oh my goodness, there's even less that those tanks that you have are able to do to really get things going here. So I think this lobby is just going to be more of the same that we've been seeing for Bean. I don't expect to see them go down as Zoe's kind of freaking out a little bit. We'll just leave her kind of be for a second there. But I actually want to check back over with Grim as well, just because now we have two players fully win streaking, going into stage 3-4. This is one of these things that gets people on TFT Reddit very, very anxious because they go, hey, Mort, why haven't these two people fought each other yet? What's going on here? Why are you ruining my game?
Yeah, it's curious when you have the two tops just not going at it. Um, but here we are, What's wrong,
Yeah,
Pro? What's
nothing.
wrong? No, no,
No, I'm
nothing.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
just I
there's
just had a
nothing wrong
cough.
with it.
I'm so sorry. But like going
It's
further here though, it seems like things are shifting around a little bit more. We saw most players going for the Yasuo previously. Now we see everyone really committing towards that Aurelion Soul and even a commitment to Aurelion Soul from just being here.
which I don't see an issue with that. ASOL has there's a lot of potential, right?
Mhm.
And that's what we talked about with this is there's a significant amount of potential. Committing to it early, or already rather, when you're already in this strength position of full health, full streak, doing incredible. It has a lot of ups to it with fewer downs. It's not as big of a gamble as it could be. Speaking of though, we do have Sizagi,
Siski, I think.
Sizgi, I don't know. Already going in with the early mech transition, right? And we've talked about how good this comp can be when you don't know what to do with yourself. but they didn't go all in on it, right? They made the transition over, signaling to everybody, hey, listen, I am going to be playing this, but do they have the HP to get to all 6 to hit all of the units? They've got a good amount of gold. My guess is they're hoping to just survive through the PBE and then make the whole world down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really curious to watch this here. Their items aren't fully here just yet, too, so it's going to take a little bit more time. Because they have that golden dupe that we were talking about, though, I'd imagine that post roll down, they're not going to be very healthy, but they are going to at least be able to guarantee that combination 2-star ASOL, 2-star Mighty Mech. The other thing I need to call out quickly that we just sort of glossed over here is Sir, this is a Wendy's, actually has a Nova emblem, was able to figure it out from one of their options that came earlier, so we'll have to keep an eye out there. And the fact that Grimm has lost their win streak, so it is just going to be Just Bean in the, or just Bean, I should say, sorry about that, in the driver's seat for the win streak going into the wolf round.
Just Bean.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah. Going into wolves, this is the big transition period, right? I had mentioned for Syzygy that they're just kind of waiting before they do their major roll down. That's very typical because that's your best case scenario for gold, as well as you have the most time, right? You have the most time to think about it and to really make all of your ultimate decisions. They do take a victory there as well over Cat, so that's good for them as well. Saves a little bit of HP. Cat being in that 5th place position as well, meaning it wasn't just like the next person up in terms of HP. It was, at least a little more important of a victory. We do have Arbiter being played in here. Options exist. Effect is not being selected just yet, taking their time.
I think it's one of these things where, like I talked about earlier, this is your TFT homework. Like, you have to check Arbiter, you have to see what options you sort of have here. And I think part of that is because that, depending on what Arbiter bonuses you have, this looks like something that can very easily become a pretty nutty LeBlanc build that you have looking at this itemization. So you have to make sure you're able to kind of confirm that early on, and if you don't hit something good, maybe that's enough for Cat to consider an alternate build that doesn't involve playing this LeBlanc, right? So all these little things need to be done to sort of figure out exactly where you want to go. Syzygy, by the way, is doing that roll down that we were talking about here, already hit a lot of 2-star units here, there, and everywhere, looking to see if they can find one more ASOL for one more use of that golden dupe, or even heck, a Bard. Look at that, was able to find one of their own over there. But nothing just yet.
No, they have the Morgana in, if I saw that correctly.
Yes.
No.
Oh, they took it out.
Yeah. There was a Morgana there for a moment, and that's okay. I didn't really want to talk about her anyways, because you had mentioned the pros and cons, like what she brings to the table. But in terms of pros and cons, you can see that this is now both Umbreon and Syzygy who have made the roll down looking for the exact same things. But because Syzygy rolled down sooner, they hit sooner. They have hit better. So now you have Umbreon rolling into a contested comp with no gold in hand. It's super unfortunate, but is kind of what this set is right now, where you're not doing too well, you don't have set direction. I'm going to roll down into mech. Somebody beat you to it. Now you hold hands.
Yeah, this is going to be really risky here. I think Arcane Victory, though, is a great exit strategy because it gives you an option to get out and worry about stalling for that, stall for the Aurelian Soul, but it seems like Reinforcement is going to be the pick instead, which, I mean, you can see something funky where you get to skip ahead a little bit here, but I think it's just going to be picked up in order to guarantee you have that Aurelian Soul here.
What just happened?
They swapped out the 1-star Aurelian Soul for the 2-star Aurelian Soul and just moved the items over.
I was just confused as to how they ended up with a 1-star on the board and a 2-star on the bench, but I guess it was
because of their augment, right? They picked the four cost.
Oh, thank you. I missed that.
No worries, no worries. Well, they actually, I didn't realize they nerfed Reinforcement to give you 5 gold instead of 10. Wow.
It's a big punch, but it was like with that many units and that much gold, it was a very strong augment, particularly when you're playing in a set where 4 costs are so important.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's a bad thing they nerfed it, just more, oh, I didn't know that they did. But
Yeah.
no, completely agree. It makes sense here, and I can get the reasoning behind it. Just something for us to keep an eye on, just as Sir This is a Wendy's is keeping an eye on more options they have for this board. They're holding on a little bit longer, just going to naturally get up to level 8 right now before continuing their roll down here. Really curious to see where they're going to go for, and I think, honestly, Nova Graves might be the best path forward.
Which, when is it not? From,
Yeah,
from
no,
what
you're
we've
right.
seen in this set, right? Nova Graves has just been so strong, nigh unbeatable, if it's done early enough. That Graves just stacks and stacks and stacks. Look how close they are to hitting the 2-star already as well.
Oh, you gotta slam the item now, though, because otherwise the Nova Selector's not gonna be there in time. No, the Nova Select. Oh, it's actually on Master Yi.
Huh?
Huh?
Okay.
I mean, also works, right? Like, this is the unit that has been really
Looks can
using the
be
most
deceiving.
effectiveness out of it. It is gonna be rough that you're not gonna be able to get it on this fight. I believe the way that the Nova Selector works if you didn't use it is that it goes based on strongest unit rules. I don't think Master Yi qualified for that at combat beginning, but they should be able to get back into the swing of things in the next round.
Yeah, and you know what? They're already on a loss streak, right? It's not the worst thing to happen to them.
Yeah,
Looking
true,
at
true.
the items that they had on their bench, though, I think they might actually be looking to itemize Graves in a way that is less useful for the Nova Spat to be on him. Namely because he's going to upgrade on his own, as we talked about. Just as you go on, as you progress, you're going to be able to buy the upgrades for Graves. So potentially looking to have a strong board around him, with him not being directly affected by Nova.
By the way, a few other big things happening. We have the Aurelian Soul offering the you go below 30 health, I give you 18 gold. Geez, half the lobby is pretty much at or below 30 health. That's free 18 gold there, baby. That works out pretty good. Meanwhile, just being up at the very top, they have lost their full win streak here, I think, a little while ago. So that means it's not going to be as insane as we've seen previously. It means the rest of the lobby is beginning to catch up to them a little bit. We'll have to see exactly which way that ends up going.
Yeah, let's flip our way up to Bean actually for a second, just to see what they're sitting on. That is a 2-star Master Yi, actually, by the way, for Win there. So that's a big pickup. A 2-star Pantheon coming in for Grim as well. But Bean is the one I wanted to talk about because they're still running on this 4 Psionic, and they're still looking to continue their upgrades, sitting on the 2-star Victor, sitting on the 2-star Misfortune, but they do not have that strong front line yet. They are still relying on that Rast Maokai, which are great, but you need more.
On top of that as well, they actually don't really have a lot under them either here. Like, take a look at the bench here. They only have 4 of each total. The Misfortune and the Victor. There just isn't a lot to kind of go off of here, and I'm a little worried about Bean hitting at this point here. Granted, they have the most HP in the game. They have plenty of time to make these hits happen, but I don't know. This is not where I'd want to be if I was trying to roll down here.
That was a crazy win-loss cycle, by the way. The top 4 all lost at the time.
Also...
The top 4 at the time. There's been some positions that have swapped. Obviously, Wendy's and GMT changed positions. But either way, it was insane to see the people who had just been the top of the lobby for so long lose it right there. And that is an 18 gold injection difference.
Really quickly, I gotta call out the oh my goodness, I forget. I think it's Evelyn's Embrace is the name of that artifact that's been slammed.
Correct.
Evelyn's Instinct,
Instinct.
excuse me, that's on here. This is an insane artifact, frankly. Like, being able to grant you the execute, being able to grant you the dash, it's a really strong way to make a 2-cost unit feel like it's a little bit more powerful. Granted, it's not going to do a lot against a super tank like the
Mech.
like the Mighty Mech, but that's just a positioning problem, right? Like, if you're able to sort of shift it around a little bit, find a best in forward, you're gonna be able to make some pretty big moves from there.
Do you think when Riot Games decided to put Spaceship Asol in this, they knew that Star Fox was going to be in the Mario movie?
You know, I think there might be a lot of rumblings in LA, so I wouldn't be surprised if something like slipped over one way or the other.
Because it's very Star Fox ship shaped, right? Like
Yeah, I agree
and
with
there's
that.
too
Star
many
Fox shaped.
there's too many other references in this set for me to let that go.
So I believe you're also talking about, say, the Expedition augment that gives you a bonus when you hit 30 free gold and sacrificed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
Expedition 33 being in there, the Mass Effect one that we already talked about. Um, yeah, there's just too many.
Yeah, no, I agree. Hold
Also,
on,
shout out
let's.
to Claire Obscure.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hold on, I want to see if there's going to be enough rolls here to actually manage to hit the Akali free. This is the thing that you really want to pivot to in the late game when the Belveth begins to lay off. But I don't
They're
think we're going to see that just yet.
sitting on a 2-star
Oh wow,
Master
this is
Yi
a
on
deep roll.
bench. This is a full commit roll, and they're not gonna hit. Okay,
Whoa, that was
what do you
painful.
sell? What do you sell? You lock. Just lock. Just lock. Just lock. He sold a 2-star Master Yi to hit the 3-star Akali. That
I'm in
could come
pain.
back to bite them.
Yeah, I'm in pain there. Like, granted, like, I'm not sure how much of this was holding Master Yi to use it or how much of it was holding it to deny it. I'm not 100% sure. What I will say, though, is that this Graves doesn't really care about these plans right now, as it is already beginning to really stack up, really get some of these benefits here. I was nervous, admittedly, I think when we last looked at Sir, This Is a Wendy's board, just because they weren't really moving around these items in ways that I really thought was well structured, right? They still had like a couple of items on a few units that were already kind of beginning to be outclassed here, there, and everywhere. But here they've really come into their own, and I actually want to use this as an excuse to quickly check in on their commitment to ASOL. If we look at the the
Boon.
augment really quickly here,
Oh.
because that's going to give us an insight to the selection. And oh, that's just going to be after free combats gain gold and an anvil. That's a solid choice. You can't really go too deep right now with the Aurelian Soul.
No, and quite frankly, at this point, additional gold when you're in the top half of the lobby is always good, let alone when you're sitting in the top 3. More than that, the addition, like it's additional item strength as well. And considering Graves is already very strong and getting stronger on their own, additional items for the rest of your team is just going to help his survivability by helping their survivability. All of that to say, Murky Waters just slapped this board around.
With that too, we also have a few other things happening. Cat GM, our 4th place player, going in tied. I also think in a 4-way tie for 4th. Call that a 4 for 4. That is going to be the first player eliminated here on the day.
At this point, I am floored because I was just talking about how Sir, This Is a Wendy's was in the top 3 of the lobby and making good decisions based off of that. They're now the closest to elimination after losing that combat. That's how bad the combat went for them against Murky Waters. They were sitting between 28 and 35 HP and are now down at 13. So they lost almost 20 HP off of that combat. But it is 5-3, right? That's a huge contributor to it. But again, still lost a lot. Another thing I want to point out, level 9 for most players right now. When we were last looking at who was it that was rolling down? Was it
that was Dixie, I think.
Yeah, I think it was Win Dixie. They were level 6.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Graves.
Oh.
Not quite baconated.
Not yet in the least. Like, very close HP all across the board, though. Win Dixie, Sir, This Is Wendy's 1 HP separating them. Murky Waters only slightly better at 8. I gotta say, this is one of these moments where you can blink and all of a sudden you have a top 3, right? Like, so many players are very low on HP right now.
Win Dixie's level 7. Only level 7. This is not favorable. And that's it. It's not favorable. Now, again, a reminder. Sir, This Is a Wendy came into this game in 8th place, right? And then Just Bean and Suzuki were also tied with them in 8th place. We had Grim and Win Dixie tied for 1st going into this, followed by Umbreon, Cat, and Murky. So looking at where everybody is right now, I mean, Grim must be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I gotta say, it must feel nice. And on top of that, you are starting to see these players manages to hold out a little bit longer here. Bean, I know, has been really struggling, goes down just to 2 HP. I gotta say, I didn't think it was gonna be an elimination, but it got far closer than I thought it would. And Win Dixie also goes down here.
Grim lost as well. So Win Dixie eliminated, but Grim lost. Umbreon is on a win streak. And again, she was She was third place.
Hmm.
Technically, only 1 point behind first and second. This is insane. How close is it? This actually, I mean, we wanted to say we want to reward consistency in this. It is a sum total of all games played. This is a winner takes all at this point.
Well, that's what happens. We have so many consistent players. You know what I mean? Like, everyone here played incredibly throughout the day. We now get to see who gets to be the most incredible at the very end of it. But honestly, everything here just feels like it's going to come down to matchmaking and these little micro decisions here, there, and everywhere. Just being managed to find, as we talked about, one of the strongest comps in the game, but we see Murky Waters on the opposite end, having found pretty much everything they need for this LeBlanc comp and gets to trigger the cutscene.
Just being, yes, had one of the strongest compositions in the game, but like I was saying, level 7 versus level 9, 2 fewer units on the board is a massive difference maker. On average, at this stage in the game, that is over 1,000 HP difference per team. And that's only if they're 1 stars and 1 costs, basically. If you're looking at a 3 or 4 cost, 1 or 2 star, there could be like 3,000 hit point difference when you're missing 2 units. That is a tide turner.
I gotta call it out too. Umbreon lost their streak. They also are now very
Oh my
dang close
goodness.
to single-digit HP. This really does feel like a coin flip in terms of who's going to take it. So much incredible play all through the day. It's all just going to come down to who is able to make these moves as effectively as they can at the very end.
This is one life each is where we're at right now. Every single one of these 5 players is 1 life. And again, the scores are so close coming into this that it is a winner takes all scenario. Almost guaranteed. The only place where it isn't is really if you're looking at a like, Sir, this is a Wendy's win with like Bean and Grim. With Grim going out right now. Like,
Hold
that's
on,
the only way it might get
so
kind of
right
close.
now, Kate needs it to feed us some of the numbers, so we don't need to do math on stream. For now, though, Grim seems to be making the calculation much easier, taking another player's life down to 0. Oh, excuse me, that was a ghost board, but that would have been such a cool thing to say.
It would have been so good.
Oh, but Murky goes down. I think Siki also might go down too. Yes, they do. -1. We have a top 3 here. Sir, this is a Wendy's, Umbreon, and Grim. I gotta say, this is such a close lobby.
We have a 1st place, a 3rd place, and 8th place in our top 3 right now. This is a dream scenario for Sir, this is a Wendy. Unfortunately, though, I don't actually know if he can win. I don't think it maths out because of Grim making top 3. I think no matter what, Grim gets more points.
Well, I think we gotta remember, though, the real winner here is the Nova emblem, right? Because once again, it sneaks into the lobby that we really didn't think it was going to, and it also maintains this dominant streak, right? So we'll see if it's able to go all the way. Obviously, this Graves has gotten terrifying from some of the last few upgrades that we've seen. I think this was sheer mass, the one that was just picked up here, which is going to give a lot more bonus stats, but we'll have to see if it's enough to even be able to chew through the Bia and Balin. That's going to be too much, I think, for him, though. I think, Sir, this is a Wendy's. Unless Graves can find some really good shots on the back line.
What is this life steal?
Down. What's happening?
Wendy!
Are you kidding me?
Baconated into the blender.